welcome Nathan and Alan. And we have our existing members that were on the school committee previously. So thank you all for serving in this capacity. We'll move on to the election of the school committee chairperson and vice chairperson. So I'd like to open up nominations for the school committee chair at this time.
I would like to make a nomination.
Okay, Karen.
I would like to nominate Jim Bell for the position of chairperson. And I have 3 reasons. First of all, he's an experienced member of the school committee and he's seen the district in anxious times and then after that able to make substantial progress with able leadership. And second, in my position as the subcommittee chair of curriculum and personnel, I've seen his preparation and thoughtful contributions as well as his amicable manner in dealing with challenging issues. He's also very able to contribute to efficient operation of a committee, as you might guess. And finally, he knows the students through his work in PVRS athletics. They know he holds them as their highest priority. So it's experience. He's a solid member of the committee and he's for the kids. Thank you.
John? John?
Yep, Mike.
I'd like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Kristen Gonzalez to be the chair of the school committee. I'll give a couple of reasons why I think that she's a candidate. Her thoroughness in running the meetings in the past, her thoroughness with dealing with items in a timely fashion have proven beneficial to the district and to the kids in the district. She's led us through some tough times, including the budget deficit issues. I think we got challenging times ahead of us that are equal to or greater than what we've dealt with in the past. And I think that she has the sufficient skills to bring us to a better future for our students.
All right. Thanks,
John,
Mike.
John, did you want to wait for, David had gone to get someone, he's probably trying to help him on, and his expectation was probably you were going to start this after he got back.
Yeah, we can wait
so
before we proceed.
Well, he's missing some really good information that has been given by 2 members about their, reasons why. I just point of order. We're proceeding when you go ahead.
Yeah. David, we had some nominations for school committee, and I think you stepped away during those nominations. Would you like us to go back and repeat that, or were you able to
thank you for pausing. I was not able to get through to Nathan, but I did have the sound up. I heard the whole thing. I would like to nominate Alan Genovese, who's a former member of this school committee and has served as a superintendent for almost 20 years. So I think at this juncture, Alan would be a good person to lead us. He is chairing the 6th town, and I've worked, he's worked for me. And I think one of the things he understands is that the school committee chairman works for the committee, not the other way around. Being a superintendent, I think he'll appreciate that. So his expertise, that would be my favorite.
All right. Thanks, David. And I think, Michelle, you had your hand up.
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
I vote to close the nominations at this point since we have 3 candidates.
Okay. And we'll go to voting. So I guess we'll just, Karen? I can rename the candidates as well, but Karen, you want something?
Yeah, my question is, are all the candidates willing to serve?
Right. Jim, you were the first to be nominated. Would you be willing to serve if elected?
Sure.
That's Jim Bell is the first candidate. I know Ann Harding was asking me to review the names. Kristen Gonzalez, would you be willing to serve if you were elected?
Yes.
Okay. And Alan Genovese, would you be willing to serve if you were elected?
Yes, and that was a great question. I appreciate her having the foresight to ask that.
Thanks, Karen.
Mhm.
So I guess we'll start with Jim Bell. If somebody wants to make a motion to not, nominate.
A second.
So do a roll call vote, I believe.
There, John, I think there has to be a second first.
Somebody seconded it. Or did I mishear somebody say they seconded that? Was there a second on the Jim Bell? I thought I heard somebody, but maybe not.
I looked up Robert's rules before this, and it said in nominations, there's no need for a second because anybody can make a nomination, so there's no need to legitimize it.
Thank you,
Can
Karen.
I do a point of order here? You actually have a policy here, BDA, that talks about this process. And it says that, at your first meeting, you would elect a chair and a vice chair. And then it goes on to say a majority of the members of the committee will constitute a quorum. And then the election process is as follows. The meeting should be called by the superintendent. Nominations of officers of the chair will be made from the floor. The chair will be elected by a majority roll call vote of the members present and voting. And if no nominate, and then it goes on to get into some other particulars. But so that's your process. So Karen, it didn't talk about being not consistent. It was silent on the you had nominations from the floor. So you are correct. I think one of the things we always have to be careful of is looking at Robert rules and then looking at, what's the policy of the committee, because that's what governs your actions. That's all, John. Thank you.
But John,
Thanks,
I would like
Go
to
ahead.
contribute exactly what I contributed, I believe it was 4 years ago, which is our actual policies, which I don't believe we got around to second reading and vote on BB. But I think they're perfectly good MASC policies. But ours says that our nominating committee is supposed to be making a report right now to act on. I would suggest, though, that rather than vote on one candidate and then another, that a jungle primary approach to at least winnow out the top two, so that each person state their preference, and you don't have a majority of the if somebody doesn't have a majority of those present and voting, then the top two would go to a runoff for the members to vote on, having winnowed it down from 3 nominees to 2. I suggest that because the primacy of getting voted on first could be an advantage.
John, could I ask for clarification on, because David, I don't know what you're referring to. This policy didn't show that it was amended. It was approved by the Pioneer School Committee on 10/26 of 2017 at that meeting. So I didn't see anything that, referenced that it's being amended, which usually they'll put at the bottom of a policy and the date that it was amended. So
No, I'm not
maybe
saying it was
that's
amended.
something that
Alan, I'm not saying it was amended. I'm saying that it was, I don't believe it was ever properly adopted. And the copies of our policies that were supplied to me by the district about whenever some members and staff were making complaints against me, it didn't have the proof of when much of anything was adopted. And most of the things that did have it were from the 1980s or 90s. So
this is as
no,
recent as
this all
2017.
goes to the really importance that we need to go to our policies, and we should skip this second reading stuff and just, most of the time we're going to adopt the association's policies without a lot of adjustment. But the whole second reading thing really bogged us down.
Kristen?
So one of the things I just wanted to ask about, as I didn't see it here on the agenda, that may shed some light on David's suggestion regarding the nomination committee. Given our new members, we're also supposed to form subcommittees and revisit those and that assignment. And I didn't see it on the agenda, so I just wanted to put that out there because our subcommittees are not complete.
John, can I ask a question?
I think Jeannie had her hand up and then Karen first, Alan. Sorry.
No problem.
I have two questions. Have all the new members that have been elected been sworn in by your town clerks?
I
Because
have.
if you haven't, then I believe you cannot vote tonight.
There
I
would be
was
absent-
sworn in. Oh, I was sworn in today at 4 p.m. by the Northfield Town Clerk.
That's fine. I just was double checking so it doesn't come back at us. And Ellen, the policy committee has been working to review all of our policies and adopting new ones in conjunction with Massic.
That's excellent. Thank you, Jean.
Karen?
Yes, regarding why the nominating committee is not doing the job as is in our current policy manual. Many of the nominating committee consists of the chairs of all the subcommittees, and many of those people are no longer on the school committee as of the election.
Do you have a process for that whereby usually the chair and vice chair, they would send out a thing to all the members and saying, what's your preference for committees, first, second choice, and then you'd get that immediately, a first, second, third choice. And then the chair would immediately put that together and then put that back out there so people would know, which committee they're on. And generally, the general rule is you try to give the first choice to the respective members. But is
Yeah,
that how
that
that works
doesn't-
here?
It doesn't usually happen on the first meeting. The chair gets elected and then in the following meeting, typically the
Correct.
chair sends out the forms and the people respond, and then the chair assigns people and chairs of the subcommittees.
And
Right,
in,
that's not on this agenda. Yeah, that's why the subcommittees isn't on the agenda. Jim had his hand up and then Jeannie. Jim?
Yeah, I'm just asking Alan to raise his hand and not just speak out, please.
Thank you.
Jeannie?
that's exactly what I was gonna say. And over the past several years, we have all been on at least 2 subcommittees. It would be nice just to be on one, but there's not enough of us to go around to do that. So, yeah, and that's how it's worked in the past. After tonight's meeting, we would all send in 3 choices for subcommittees, and the chair and co-chair or vice chair, however it goes, would then set those up.
So in sticking with our current policy as a roll call, should we just go in order here of who was nominated? And Karen had nominated Jim Bell first. Maybe we could do and if there's if second, maybe we don't need a second. Maybe we should start there and do a roll call.
John, I really think the way David suggested is just to go through and ask everybody to vote for one would be a lot more timely a better use of time, because we have a long agenda for tonight as always.
Okay, that's fine. I guess we'll just go in order. Let me just take notes here. So let's start with Karen. Who would you vote? The 3 candidates are Jim Bell,
Yeah.
Alan Genovese.
I vote for Kristen. I didn't know she would be nominated. Sorry, Jim.
That's okay.
Okay.
Do I get to
David,
vote?
David? Three candidates are Jim Bell, Kristen Gonzalez, or Alan Genovese.
I vote for Alan Genovese.
Okay. Jeannie?
Alan,
Okay. Let's work my way down here. Julie Burke?
I will vote for Kristen Gonzalez.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Mike Townsley?
Kristen Gonzalez.
Okay. Michelle Russo?
Alan Genovese.
Okay. Raina Dastis?
I'm going to abstain since I haven't been sworn in yet.
Okay. And who am I missing here? Am I missing anybody? Jim Bell.
I vote for Kristen.
And you're missing Kristen.
And I'm missing Kristen Gonzalez.
Well, I guess I'll vote for myself.
And Alan.
Yes,
Alan,
yeah.
you voted for yourself, Alan? Okay. Did I miss anybody, or did I think I hit everybody? So votes for Kristen would be 5. Alan is 1, 2. I have 4 votes for Alan and 5 for Kristen Gonzalez. I have Karen O'Neill for Kristen Gonzalez. Julie
that's
Burke.
what I have done.
Okay. Julie Burke for Kristen Gonzalez. Yeah. Mike Townsley for Kristen Gonzalez. Jim Bell for Kristen Gonzalez, and Kristen for Kristen. And then for Alan, I have David Young, Jeannie Milton, Michelle Geruso, and Alan. So I have 5 to 4 in favor of Kristen Gonzalez.
Did you just, I must have missed it. I thought you just counted 5. What did I miss? For me?
We had one abstention.
We had 1 abstention. I had a David Young vote for you, Jeannie Milton, Michelle Geruso, and yourself, which was 4, 1 abstention. And then Kristen had Karen O'Neill, Julie Burke, Mike Townsley, herself, and Jim Bell. So 5 to 4, looks like Kristen is nominated as school committee chair. So Kristen, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you. So we will also have to nominate a vice chair this evening. So I'll open up the floor for nominations if someone would like to nominate an individual. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to nominate Karen O'Neill.
Okay, thank you. I saw Michelle and Jeannie's hand. So Michelle and then Jeannie.
I'd like to nominate Alan Genovese.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie?
I'm all set.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? I'd like to make a nomination myself. I'd like to nominate Mike Townsley. And David, I see your hand up.
I'd like to know if they are willing to serve.
That will be my next question. Karen?
Yes.
Okay. Alan?
Yes,
And Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So what we'll do is we'll follow the same process and we'll go down the line. We'll begin with Jim.
So I vote for Karen.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Sorry, I'm getting the hang of my work uses Zoom meetings, so I'm not used to Google ones. But I'll vote for Mike.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie?
Alan,
Thank you. Mike?
I'll vote for myself.
Thank you. Rena, will you be abstaining as well for this vote?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Karen? Oh, you're on mute.
I will vote for myself.
Thank you. David?
I vote for Alan.
Thank you. Alan?
Yes, I'll vote for myself.
Thank you. Michelle?
Alan?
And my vote would be for Mike. So currently I have Karen with 2 votes, Alan with 4, and Mike with 3. So it looks like Alan, you'll be the vice chair. Okay,
Look forward to working with you.
same to you. All right, now that that process is completed, and we've completed citizens' comments, let's take a minute. Thank you, Tanya. If we could take a minute to just go over a few housekeeping things. If everyone can keep themselves muted, please. That way there is no background noise that inhibits everyone's ability to hear what's going on. And I would also ask that everyone raise their hand, and I'll try and pay attention to what's going on the screen as well, because I also do take my own notes. That would be really helpful. Keeping yourselves on mute also helps BNC TV with the recording. So we were provided minutes. The first set of minutes that we'll be reviewing will be August 27th of 20. Has everyone had the opportunity to review that document?
I'll move to accept August 27th meeting minutes. And just a point of clarification, I spell my name with 1 L.
I'll fix my spell checker.
Your probably spell checker wouldn't help you.
Well, it will. I code it to names, so it will.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Karen.
Yeah, there's a number of problems with the last paragraph on page 2.
Okay.
I just think some words have been left out or
All right,
put in.
please go ahead.
Okay, so it says in the second sentence of the last paragraph, he noted the HVAC assessments have not been completed, but additional equipment been purchased. Has been purchased, maybe? Word left out? And next sentence, Seaman expressed confidence is a safe work and learning environment. Maybe confidence in? And in a couple more sentences later, he noted school systems are being set to bring in outside air. Is that all? All school systems?
So I just want to check in with Anne.
I am in the process of highlighting these, so
Okay.
I can go back to my notes.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I have had some major technological problems, not to mention other stuff going on in my world. So I apologize for them all coming at once. And not being, I'll tell you, none of them are well proofed, because I was trying to get them to Joanne before the meeting so they could at least be on the agenda.
Oh,
Thank you, Anne. We appreciate it.
yeah.
So Michelle, you had made a motion with your name spelled with 1 L.
Right, there was no second
Yes.
yet either.
Okay.
Are you, Karen, is that all for you or is there more?
Yes,
Because you're the
yes,
best you're the best proofer.
Thanks.
No, you
Yeah,
are.
that
You're
was all.
great.
Thanks. And you are too. So I can second that with amendments as discussed.
Thank you, Karen. All in favor of accepting the minutes with the corrections as discussed? I'll just go
Aye.
down the line. If anyone is opposed, please just say opposed. Okay, everyone's in favor. Moving on to the next set of minutes. Dated September 3rd of 2020. Go ahead, Karen.
It says at the top that Mike Townsley was absent, but then he made some motions, so I guess he wasn't.
We'll have
Mike,
to
you were there, right?
He
Even-
was.
even
I
I
think he
didn't-
was. I think he was a
Yeah.
couple minutes late or something, and I forgot to fix that. I did catch it myself later. I've already amended it in my final minutes.
Okay, fine. That's all
Yeah,
I
even
thought.
I didn't pick up on that one, Karen.
Actually, point of order, are we talking September 3rd or 10th?
September
Third.
3rd is the first September set of minutes that we're reviewing.
Okay, it was the same with me. I wasn't listed at the top, but my name is in there. That's why I'm asking. I think I got in late.
Mhm.
Are there any other corrections that are needed for the September 3rd minutes? Okay, is there a motion on the floor to accept the minutes with the corrections? Oh, yes, David.
Can I just get clarification
Sure.
on that one? Michelle, you were there or not there?
I was there.
Okay, so that was September
Because-
3rd. Yep.
On number 4, you said Jeruso asked when the committee would discuss. There was a couple things I asked.
Okay.
I seconded
Okay.
a motion on the sports program.
Yeah, I missed a meeting where you came on board, so I wasn't sure of the dates on that one. But okay, so I'm going to add you and I'm going to take Mike off the absent list on that one, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the motion was by Karen as amended and the second?
David?
Our new member, Nathan Schwartz, can't log into the meeting. He says the link's not working and asks if it could be resent. I sent it to his, I don't know if he's got district email, and I sent it to his personal email. And sometimes I have trouble getting on the meetings because I have 3 Gmail accounts and I have to be logged in on the Pioneer one. So we're charging ahead here on these minutes, which he wasn't involved in, but we reorganized without him. And I think that part of having remote meetings, which are required, is making sure our members can attend. I don't know
So,
what we want to do, but I want to report that.
okay, so it's my understanding that I did see Tyler Pless was here on the meeting with us. So Tyler, if you're here,
Yeah, I was here. So what is the email address he's attempting to use, David?
oh, David, you're on mute.
Well, I'm supposed to be on mute. I used his personal one, which is WAGGENFULL6 have our new members been supplied with their school emails yet?
The district emails do exist, but I don't know if they've all seen them yet, so I invited them, or I think Joanne invited them with their personal ones. And can you confirm? I'm going to post it in the chat, the email you said, just to confirm it's correct.
There's also a phone number that he can call in.
That looks correct.
And it does look like he was initially invited.
Very good.
with
I'll
that.
send an invite his way, though. Yes, like it does look like he was invited as well, but I'll send him another one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. We'll just give him a minute to log in. There was a motion on the floor regarding the minutes, and I know that Nathan is a new member. So I'm not sure if folks would like to proceed in finishing the September 3rd minutes and give him the opportunity to join us. If everyone is okay with that, I'm going to move forward and complete that process. Okay. All right. So Anne, there was a motion. If you could just refresh my memory, please, who made that motion?
I believe it was Karen moved to accept the minutes as amended.
Okay. Is there a second? Yes, Jeannie?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Michelle seconded. Any opposed? None? Okay. Okay, moving on to the September 10th minutes. Yes, Karen? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. On the bottom of page 2, again, the sentence that says, it was noted citizens can contact either Joanne, that should have an E, Wallace, or himself. We don't know who himself is. Who is himself? Or is that in the Irish sense? Himself. Is that the superintendent?
That might be in reference to me, I'm guessing,
I
that
think
they
so.
either contact the superintendent or the administrative assistant.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Anne, are you good with that correction?
I'm trying to get that one open so I can highlight it. I think this is
Okay.
another one that I sent an amendment to Joanne, but page 2.
Second sentence from the bottom.
Oh, yes. Okay. Or the superintendent. I'll just change that to the superintendent. Yeah. I seem to have declined to say that he was talking at the time. Okay. So is that a motion,
Okay.
Karen?
Yeah, I move to accept with the amendment.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. David, just checking in on Nathan. Have you heard from him? I don't see him on our screen, so.
I sent an email to Tyler and Nathan.
Yeah, but I sent an invite to him as well as an invite and the phone number to call in too. So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll give him a few more minutes. Thank you both.
So while there's a little break there, the meeting of September 22nd, I was not able to attend that one. And I think there were only a couple items on the agenda, but there's also no video production of it. So I'm hoping that committee members will be able to, give me some sort of input on at least I haven't been able to find a link. Sometimes they appear out of order. Then the meeting of August 13th, the minutes were tabled. And to my knowledge, they haven't been on the agenda again. So I did do it. There was a clarification on one of the paragraphs on the citizens' comments, and I updated that and sent it to Joanne recently. So that's one that needs to go on the next agenda. I'm just letting you know these things. And then I can't find any record that the minutes of July 16th have been approved either. So I just want to put those on the record for the next agenda, and I'll make a note of it in the meeting minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you,
And
Anne.
then
I will
I'll make sure that I send those to make sure that Joanne has the minutes for those meetings. Okay.
And then Tyler with BNC TV or Tyler Plus, I'm not sure if either of you have the ability to see if there are minutes for the September 22nd, excuse me, video production for the September 22nd meeting. If you could just send me an email, that would be fantastic. Welcome, Nathan. Oh, you're on mute. Hold on, let me see if I can unmute you.
How about that?
Oh, perfect.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Took a little while to get here, but I'm glad I'm here.
Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah,
you
good to be
being
here.
here. Also, I just want to welcome Ryan Potter, who is our student representative. He's joined us as well. So thanks, Ryan, for joining us this evening.
And this is Ann. I'm going to apologize to Ryan because I'm pretty sure in some of these minutes I called him Ryan Marshall. So I will fix that as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ann. So Nathan, just to bring you up to speed, we are reviewing the minutes. We've reviewed and approved the first 3 dates. So that would be August 27th, September 3rd, and September 10th. We're now going to review the September 17th minutes.
Okay. Great. Thank
And
you.
Nathan, can I just ask, were you sworn in by?
I was not able to get in touch with the town clerk today to get that done.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to make a note of that.
Yep.
So for the record, I will put the 2 unsworn in members as abstaining on all votes when
Perfect.
you
Thank
call
you.
for, non-approvals or whatever,
Okay. Thank you, Ann. All right. Moving along to the September 17th minutes. Are there any corrections that are needed? Go ahead, Karen. Oh, you're on mute.
One misspelling. Under face mask policy, bandanas, you should strike the last N.
I saw Alan's hand up and then Michelle's hand up.
Yeah, I just want to, before you get too far in this, just if you're not sworn in, you're actually not on the school committee. So listing them as abstaining would not be appropriate because that means they took an action of abstaining. So it can just be noted, but they shouldn't be recorded for or against or abstaining.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
And again, I did attend the meeting because under number 1, I abstained from the vote. Last line.
Oh,
Thank you, Michelle. Ann, are you all set with that one?
Yes, I am. I'm making notes as we go.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Michelle with 1 L.
Whoop. And Michelle with 1 L. Yes. Is there a motion on the floor to approve with the corrections?
I'll move that, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there a
I'll second it.
Thank you, Karen. Any opposed? Or abstentions? Okay, perfect. The September 22nd minutes we'll have to revisit. And that moves us along to the minutes for October the 8th. Go ahead, Karen.
The second line from the bottom, page 1, should be additional income, not addition income.
Can you say that again? I'm not finding it. The end
Sure.
of page 1?
Yeah. right after the number, 15,000, etc. It says, but the addition income, it should be additional income.
Okay,
May go
I
down.
think, okay, here, I've got the wrong minutes up. That's the problem. I was going to say the date's wrong, but I have some 2019 minutes up. Hang on a second. I was like, that doesn't make sense at all. That's not what it says. Okay, hang on. Let me get the right ones up. All right.
Yeah.
This makes much more sense. Okay, so bottom of page 1. Okay, I see addition. Okay. All right, let's get that one fixed.
And on page 3, second line, need another L in Jess Marshall's name.
Page 3. Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are there any other corrections noted or needed?
I
None?
move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. Any opposed or abstentions? Go ahead,
Can
Alan.
Yeah, I just want to, can anyone, like I'm new, and so I should get recorded as well as anyone else that wasn't a part of this. We all should be recorded as abstaining. I think you did ask, but I didn't say anything. But so anyone that wasn't a member of the committee during these meetings that you had these minutes approved, we should be recorded as abstentions. I apologize for not noting that earlier.
That's okay. Go ahead, David.
There is nothing in Robert's rules or anywhere that says that. And we waste a lot of time with people that, oh, I wasn't there, I'll abstain. If the rest of the committee thinks they look like minutes of a meeting they recognize, there's nothing wrong with voting for it, and I will do it every time. So I've seen this all over the place. Moreover, Robert's rules says we don't have to move the minutes. It is possible, and other boards that I serve on, the chairman can say, we've all had the minutes distributed in advance. Pause. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, the minutes are adopted. We don't have to vote on them. And we can waste half a meeting on it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you both for your input. I appreciate it. Given that there are no other minutes, we will revisit the two meeting minutes that Anne referenced from August 13th of 2020, July 16th of 2020, and September 22nd of 20. And Anne, I just want to make sure, were there any opposition or abstentions noted for 10-8?
No.
Okay.
I didn't see any, but
Okay.
it's hard for me. I can only see 9 people at a time, so people have to speak up if they oppose.
Okay. So
So
moving forward,
can I just ask though, do people want to abstain on the record for these minutes that they weren't members for, or not? Because I'll just leave Julie and Alan are the two that
do.
Okay, so Alan wants to abstain.
Yes.
Okay. And Julie, do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference.
Okay, so I'll keep you on as approving, just to be consistent.
Thank you, Anne. And just
Okay.
as we move forward, because Anne doesn't have video and there are some of our community members that don't have access to video that are only hearing this meeting, it may be helpful for individuals just to say, this is Kristen, and then say whatever you're going to say so that everyone is able to understand who's speaking if people don't recognize voices yet. Okay. Moving along to the superintendent's report, please.
Okay, in the interest of time, everybody's hopefully received my report. I just want to take a minute just to share out what I think is probably the most important thing on this report, how grateful and encouraged we are that our district has been able to have such an enriching and joyful start to the school year. Our success in returning to in-person learning and a hybrid model this year has relied on a deep partnership between the school and our families. I want to acknowledge that relationship and thank our families for working with us to return to school this fall. I'm also thankful to our school committee and entire school community for their overall dedication to our reopening efforts. We've had many challenges with COVID-19, but our staff, students, and community have illustrated that we can work together to educate our children throughout the toughest times. Teachers and staff have risen to the challenge of creating engaging experiences for students amidst many changes, unknowns, and uncertainties, and I appreciate the hard work and sacrifices they have made and everyone has made in order to provide our students an excellent in-person and remote education. So, thank you to everybody, especially our families, our school committee, and our teachers and staff. They've just done a remarkable job.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Kristen,
Yes, Mike?
could I ask John just a quick question?
Sure.
Sure.
John, my question is, I know that staff and the students are doing very well, but my question is if a parent recognizes that their student is struggling, but they don't have, let's say they're usually a good student or what have you, and they don't have an IEP, but they are struggling. Is there options for them to be part of the special population if it's not working for them, for their student or their child? What are the options, and how does the school district or the schools between the elementary schools and Pioneer, how are they handling that? Do the parents contact the principal, or they contact a teacher initially? How does that work?
So typically, if a student who's not an IEP is struggling, they should first contact their teacher, discuss the concerns, and then reach out to the principals. I must say that, a lot of our students, students everywhere across the country are struggling to some degree with the remote learning. But I would say to reach out to the teacher, reach out to the principal. Every situation is going to be a little bit different, but we want to support our students and families, any way we can. And that would be the starting point, to have that discussion and then see, if they would be considered special population to come in if they were having, trouble learning in that capacity. So I would say that would be the starting point to open the discussion, and then upon further discussion with the principal and maybe the special ed director, if they were going to be referred for special ed, we can look at their individual situation.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's, I guess, a good way for the parent to I guess, initiate, because the parent is actually seeing more than they're used to seeing, because now they're part of the child's direct education because they're at home with them. And if I would assume that if a parent sees or recognizes that they're struggling beyond, especially if they have more than one child, I just wanted to so when you explain it, the parents can actually hear what the path is to correct that.
Yeah, I would encourage them to reach out to the teacher and the principal, and and bring those concerns to them, and then we want to work with the families to make sure we're supporting them and the students.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Tyler from BNC TV, thank you. I just got your chat in the chat box. So Ann, he has September 10th and September 17th, and then it goes to November. So I'm gonna go back to my notes for the 22nd.
Okay.
And
will you send them to me?
I shall. Yep, I will.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
sorry about that. I can't remember why I couldn't go to that.
No problem.
I think.
All right. Okay. John, are you all set with your superintendent's report?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Next on the agenda is the Director of Finance report.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome new school committee members. I won't take long either because I know we have a long agenda. I just want to go over just a couple things. FY20 is complete and we are underway with our audit currently. We have chosen to do our audit completely remote. We've been using a share file with Melanson and Heath for a couple years now that has actually set us up to be in a good position to be able to do this. So that is underway currently. Hopefully we'll have feedback from that in a short period of time so that the state will certify our E&D so that we know what that is and are able to use that for going into our budget season. The second thing that we just completed, our state qualified bond for our deficit borrowing. We just went out to bid this past Monday for that on the 9th. And we had actually 6, I believe, bidders, and the lowest interest rate came in at 0.57%, which is fantastic. The first year we had the note, I believe it was 2.75%. The note that we are paying off December 1st is 1.95%. And this reissue is 0.57%. So our total interest that we're going to be paying next year is only a little over a couple $1,000 compared to over $7,000 that we paid this year. So that's good news. And then the only other thing that I just want to bring up that I'm going to be bringing to the next meeting because it came up after this agenda had already been put together is that the minimum wage is going up January 1st to $13.50 in the state of Massachusetts. And even though as a public entity, we are not required to comply with the mandate of minimum wage, it is very difficult to compete for substitutes right now. And especially in the current environment, we're having a really hard time getting substitutes in. So myself and our payroll coordinator would like the school committee to take a look at revoting what those substitute rates are starting for the calendar year of 2021. So just something to be on the lookout for the next meeting. I don't know if you guys want to, I think the financial reports are next in line. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me before we move on to the accounts payable that was provided.
I don't see any hands, Tanya. So if you'd like, oh, hold on one second. I do see a hand. Michelle just put her hand up.
Hi, Tanya. I thought that the school lunch program was being paid with federal dollars. We were getting federal money for the school lunch program.
So what happens is typically we have students that have to qualify for free and reduced lunch, but under the waiver that's currently happening right now, every student is qualified for free and reduced lunch. So, but it still is revenue for our school lunch program and falls under the school lunch fund. So I'm not sure what your question.
Okay, well, I was just looking at the school lunch report and money was taken out of it.
Right, because we're still responsible to pay for all of our employees and our expenses through the district. So yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking employees.
Receiving instead of being from the families through deposits via check cash or the online system, all of our lunches are being reimbursed through the National School Lunch Program. And Mike can talk a little more about that when we get to the school lunch report as well.
Okay, thank you.
Tonight. So you guys were presented with the accounts payable. As we've discussed in prior meetings, we're not going to go through those line by line, but if anybody has any questions on any particular items that were paid, we currently, just so the new school committee members that are on understand the process that we're going through during the remote meetings, we voted back in April, I believe, or March, that there was one signature needed for the warrants because we were performing our meetings in this remote session. So the school committee chair will sign that warrant tomorrow to allow those checks to be sent out. The one provided to you is for informational purposes only, basically, and to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. So there's no vote needed on it. I'm just here to answer any questions if anybody has any on that. So if we have none on the accounts payable, Kristen, I was going to bring this up in my Director of Finance report too. If you have the capability to sign that electronically and scan that to myself and Brenda in the morning, that would save you a trip into the district office. And I also have the payroll warrant that could be signed as such, and scanned and emailed, and I can send that over to you after this meeting if you would prefer to do it that way.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Because we do have bond documents that will need to be signed Tuesday when Joanne's back in the office. So if you can save yourself a trip, we can do that electronically.
That would be great. If you'll just email them to me and I'll sign them and scan them back to you.
Sounds good. I think you have the accounts payable cover sheet and the documents provided, and I'll email you the payroll one.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right. So moving on, I'm excited to finally be able to bring you guys FY20 final numbers. Wasn't as early as I had hoped this year, but of course, with all the reopening planning that we were involved in, some things got delayed a little bit, but I'm not going to go through line by line with the revenue and expenditures that you were provided for June 30th. We're going to just take a look at the snapshot of our fund balances for all of our funds that we have in the school. We closed out an additional $368,000 from our general fund to that fund balance, and that is the balance that you're seeing of the $728,235.24 is after the $150,000 has been reserved for the FY20 budget that was voted during the budget process.
Tanya, I see Mike has his hand up. If I can just interrupt you kindly for 1 second, please.
Go ahead.
If you could, just for the new members and for our current members, if you could put that up on the screen, if you could, just so you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have it up. I'm looking at it like I'm presenting. I just didn't present it yet. I apologize.
I just think with the new members, it's helpful.
It's okay. I apologize. I did plan to do that. And I zoomed in so you guys could see a little bit better. Does everybody see that FY20 fund balance report?
Yeah, thanks,
okay.
Tanya.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Mike. I was all ready to do that and I just didn't share my screen. The general fund is obviously the fund that we budget and most of our expenses come out of. Again, we were able to close out a larger balance this year. There are quite a few accounts that were unspent, obviously with the school closures. And if you were with us back in the spring, most of you know that we did amend our budget to allow us some leverage with some of our funds moving forward into FY21, knowing the budget crisis that we were going to be facing post-COVID. Some of the other accounts on here, you'll see that the school district is custody of, but they're not funded by public funds. We have scholarship funds, student activity funds. Those are funds that are funded by outside agencies, or they're obviously fundraised through the students. So those are just balances for references. The change is simply the change between the amount of revenues that those funds collected and either scholarships or activities that were paid out of that. The Regional Transportation Reimbursement Fund is something that the school committee voted to establish back in the spring. Again, we have never had this before, and we did have some excess transportation reimbursement over what we budgeted because we budgeted fairly conservatively with that. And knowing, again, the budget crisis we were going to be up against in 21 for this budget when we amended it, those are funds we were able to utilize to help us with our transportation budget this year. Going down the line, school choice is another one. We were able to close out $225,000 to that. That again was due to a change that we made in the spring where we got our insurance expenditures in line with our fiscal year instead of paying 1 month in arrear. I've discussed this with the auditor actually over the last 2 years, but we were actually able to implement that last year. So again, that gave us some funds to help us as we go into this next budget season. I won't go through every one of them, but the school choice and that regional transportation one were ones that were benefited from some of the things we did in the spring when we amended our budget back in June. Athletic user fees, again, there was a little more closed out to that because we didn't have as much transportation. Rural aid is another one. We were able to roll those funds over. Most of the funds that you see below the SPED circuit breaker, those are all grants that would typically be closed out at the end of the fiscal year, but due to school closures back in March, the state has allowed us to roll over those funds that weren't able to be used due to school closure. So the bulk of those are funds that we are going to be able to utilize in this year to finish up projects, professional development, or things that were not able to be done back in the spring. So those are kind of just a recap for you of what those balances are. And again, if anyone has any questions on specifics, I'm happy to answer questions now or via email after the meeting as well.
Tanya, would you mind just touching upon a couple of things for me for our new members? Because I think everything is pretty self-explanatory and I don't want to say that. And if people have questions, please feel free. But could you just explain a little bit for our new members as far as the special donations, the Charles Hand Award, and the Ellen Pelletier Athletic Fund, what those entail?
Yeah, so our special donations is a fund that has sub ledgers. So if anybody donates funds to the school district that has a specific purpose, just for example, last year Coca-Cola donated funds to us to start up a robotics program. We also get donations from local donors that might want to enhance our library program or want to purchase music things. Sometimes there are estates from someone that's passed away and their predecessor has wanted to benefit a certain program in the school. So those donations are brought to the school committee. The school committee votes to accept those donations and they're placed in that special donation fund. And we keep an Excel sheet as a sub ledger to track each individual sub donation account within that. And then that's reconciled through the treasurer and myself to make sure that we're tracking that. So that's kind of a conglomerate of donations that come into the school district. And I do have that if anybody wanted to take a look at that. The Charles Hand Award was actually, it's supposed to be for awards at the elementary school level at the end of the year, but I think some of that has changed. And because we've had new principals and school closures and things, no funds have actually been spent from that in a couple of years. And I have collaborated with our new school principals and hoping that maybe for this year's graduation, we can spend down those funds. The Ellen Pelletier is another one. It was set up actually from a donation that was specific, but because it was given its own fund, it has stayed there. And it's for specific things at the high school. So again, I'll be working with our new athletic director to hopefully spend that fund down. And most of you that are new that have watched school committee meetings know that I've been on just for a couple of years and have been working to clean things up, implement things, and kind of get things in line. So tackling larger things first. So these couple small funds we have been working on. Our past athletic director did purchase some new things for the gymnasium a year ago with that Ellen Pelletier fund as well. So building use fees, that comes from if anybody rents the high school or any of our elementary school facilities and then is able to be used to help pay for anything in our buildings or facilities that is needed above and beyond the budget. Is there any other ones that you wanted me to go over? I think I hit the...
I think those are just the ones that stick out for me that aren't obvious. Alan, do you have a question?
Yeah, and it's just, Tanya, thank you. This is a great report. For my own clarification, because I think I missed something and I'm trying to process it in my brain.
Okay.
Can you go back to when you talked to the auditors and you were able to sort of get in real time and not have to do things in arrears, so you were able to save some money and then, you know, apply that. Does that result in that's sort of like a one-time application? And since now you're sort of caught up, you won't have that money available next year, correct?
Right. So
no?
the money, basically what has happened with our budget, to give a high level, is the school choice funds. What we have done, just to make it simpler, is those get applied to the health benefits for our teachers annually as an offset to that budget. So back in the spring, when we revised our budget in June, what we did is typically in June, we pay for July's benefits. But right. I did this with the town that I worked for before to get our expenses in line, because on a true fiscal year modified accrual basis, we should only be reporting our actual expense in June that really is the district's expense, because until July 1st, when that bill is due, it's not an actual expense that should be realized. So by having the payroll coordinator pay the expense on July 1st as it should be and recording those expenses appropriately, it allowed us to essentially have 1 month less of expenditures in this past month. It is only a one-time thing, but it allowed us to put additional funds into our school choice in hopes that going into this budget for FY22 post-COVID, it gives us another resource for funds to tap into, in addition to our E&D, which is also restricted the amount that we can use because we are under financial oversight still. So with that being said, I have spoken with our financial overseer, and last year we were allowed to use $150,000 for the FY21 budget from our excess and deficiency. And because of the amount we're closing out, as well as the reserve fund that we're being mandated to add to every year, we're going to be able to use $200,000 of our excess and deficiency as a revenue source for our FY22 budget. So it's an additional $50,000. The $124,000 that was in the school choice fund going into this year, we did not use specifically because I know there is going to be an adjustment on our retiree insurance because they have this long process, which I'd be happy to explain later, but I dove into it and analyzed that we would have an additional, like we had a credit this past year, but going into the next year, based on the actual retirees that went into it, we're going to have our expenses going to swing the other way, about 75 to 100,000. So I reserved that school choice money to offset that going into FY22.
Okay, that's really helpful. Just one, it's kind of a yes or no. So prior to this, were you encumbering that money? You know, the auditors let you cover the money for the July and previous budgets.
It wasn't actually encumbered, it was just expensed. So we had 12 months of expense.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just like a utility. As long as you have 12 months in a year, you're okay, whether it actually falls in your fiscal year or not. But in order to get us in line with fiscal year spending, like I have with other things, that was an allowable change for 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Tanya, Ann Harding here. I just have a question. Is there a total number that you want to report on that fund balance? Because I don't see a total on that sheet.
These are multiple funds, so there's not a total. It's just a report of the and separate funds.
Okay.
I mean, you could state that our general fund closed out an additional $368,000 for FY20.
Okay.
But other than that, it's informational because the school committee hasn't typically, you know, they don't typically see these other subset funds throughout the year just because they're not necessarily mandated under our budget. Other than the school lunch, they do get that report on a monthly basis.
Okay, that's great. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something that was supposed to be reported. That's all. Thank you.
And again, if anybody has any questions on any of the specific surpluses and any of the revenues or expenditures for June 30th, I'm happy to answer those questions via email if you come up with any after this meeting. Real quickly, moving on to our November financial reports. Let me just pull up the right one because I have all of our stuff here. You guys should all have a revenue report for November 13th. Everything's in line there. There's no surprises. Our first tuition payment from the town of Vernon comes November 15th, so it's not obviously on this current report that only goes through November 13th. But there's not a whole lot of information here. So, but if anyone new has any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them. I will say we don't budget miscellaneous revenue. This miscellaneous revenue line is specifically for revenues that come in that are either not budgeted for, refunds for services or expenditures from a prior year, or any other adjustments that don't have a place. Both of the adjustments in here right now for miscellaneous income pertain to fuel refunds that we received with the Warwick school closure. So just so you guys know what those miscellaneous incomes are that are currently in there right now. And the state is still working on their FY21 budget. It is back with the Senate right now. So their revenue budgets are expected to change. With us being a base aid district or minimum aid district, our numbers are not expected to change much. We were very conservative with our transportation reimbursement revenue budget, and we're still in line being conservative with that. So I don't expect to have to make any changes to our revenue budget when that final budget gets adopted by the state. I'm not going to go line by line through the large expenditure report because we do have our expenditure report by category. Again, for the new school committee members, this is something that we vote by our categories. So if there are expenditures within one of these categories, we can transfer between, say, if there's IA money at one school and we hire somebody new at another school, I can essentially transfer between those lines without a vote of the school committee. If we have to transfer between these categories, it requires a vote of the school committee, which you'll see here momentarily. But this is a nice just summary of the other 10-page report, so you don't have to go line by line. But again, certainly happy to answer any questions on the line by line report. We did have, obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of staffing changes and shifts to accommodate all the things that are happening currently in the schools with people out on FFCRA leave and so forth. So we're still working on some of our staffing numbers, but all in all, we're good and we're in a really good place, and we've been able to utilize grant funding and so forth to stay on top this year. So again, any questions, you guys can feel free to email me after the meeting, or if you have any now, I'm happy to answer them.
I don't see any hands up thus far, Tanya.
Okay, I'm going to go really quickly to the items that I need a transfer vote for.
Okay.
Or a vote to be able to transfer. Sorry, I'm just trying to zoom in here because I know these are very small. So the first amount that I'm looking to vote, and it looks really large, but basically what happens, and I was able to kind of dig in and
hold on one second, Tanya. I see Jeannie's hand up.
Can you make that any bigger by any chance, Tanya? I can't see it. I don't know if other people can.
This one, the largest I can make it and have all the information there is right here.
Okay.
And you guys should have it on your computers as well at home, so you can pull it up there too.
Right. Thank you.
So again, to try to make this short and sweet, we have a grant that funds our special ed expenditures each year, or a portion thereof. It doesn't fund everything. And if we receive a grant from the state and we pay teachers through that grant, we are then required to pay 9% for the Mass Teachers Retirement System as a deduction from that grant, because the state pays the Mass Teachers Retirement. So if they give us a grant to pay for the teachers, they're not going to double fund that. So what we did this year is we amended and restructured who we were paying out of that special ed grant. So we are now paying for more support staff versus professional staff, which gave us an additional $12,000 in funding available, but also requires this transfer from the instructional assistant budget to those 3 professional lines in order to cover that. So that's what the first $140,000 is. And it's basically just from the high school special needs instructional assistant budget, where we use those funds to cover staff, over to the lines where the professional staff were located, so that our budgets are in line. And if you do look at your line by line expenditure report and look for those accounts that we're transferring to, you will see the number that I'm looking to transfer to that line as a deficit currently in that particular line. So once this transfer is done, it will make that 0 or in the positive by a few cents. The second transfer that I'm requesting is $1,500 from the elementary band and chorus transportation line over to the shared elementary band and vocal music supply. The reason for this is because we typically have a concert in the spring, which didn't happen last year. But since we've been able to re-implement our elementary band program, we were hoping to do it this year, but obviously with COVID, we're not going to be able to. So I have coordinated with the music teachers at the elementary school, and they've expressed a need for these funds to help them purchase things to allow them to teach music and band in the way that they have to teach it this year due to COVID. So I okayed that because obviously we want to support that. And make sure that they're being able to still teach music and band, but they've had to modify their curriculum this year due to the constraints of COVID. So that's what that $1,500 is for. Does anyone have any questions? If not, we just need a vote to accept the transfers as presented.
Oh,
Kristen?
Michelle has her hand up, and I see Karen with her hand up next.
No, I was just going to move the transfers as printed.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'll
Karen, did you
second.
have a question? Oh, you're muted, Karen. Oh, where'd she go?
I'm right here.
Okay, perfect.
I just wondered, if it was a personnel issue that made the nurse salary at Bernardston jump from 68,000 something to 104,000.
No, so Bernardston has two nurses. So they have their school nurse and they have a school nurse that services a special needs student that is typically covered from this grant. But
Okay.
because they are part of the Mass Teachers Retirement System, by moving this $140,000 from professional staff to support staff, it gave us an extra $12,000 in leverage for spending on special ed student direct services rather than sending that back to the state. So there's always been two nurses in that budget, but if you look at the elementary salaries budget and the nurse line, you will see the total as that 120 number, whatever you just referenced, and you'll see a non-budgeted amount that is the amount that comes from this grant to cover that special needs nurse that services a student directly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any other hands. So Michelle, would you like to make that motion again?
I'll move the transfers as printed.
Mike Townsley,
Is there a
second.
Thank you both.
All right, great.
I'm just going to go down the line just so that we can vote. So please just say your name and your vote if there's no discussion. Jim?
Jim Bell, yes.
Julie?
Julie Burke, yes.
Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Mike?
Mike Townsley, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
David?
David, yes.
Alan?
Yes, Alan.
Michelle?
Davies, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
And Kristen Gonzalez, yes. Okay. So the motion passes.
Thank you, guys. And I think that's it for me.
Okay, we'll move along to lunch reports. Thank you, Tanya. Is Mike here this evening?
He was.
I am. Good evening, Kristen.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good, good. Okay, so I'll go over the lunch report. I'll try to make it as quick and as painless as possible. I do see that you have a very long agenda tonight.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So for the month of October, we had 20 operating days at all of our schools except for Pioneer. Pioneer, we had to shut down for 2 weeks. So that affected our numbers a little bit. But going down through our revenue, we did have a little bit of miscellaneous revenue, $3.14 at Bernardston. We had some online payments for outstanding debts from last year, which is helpful, of course. Our federal reimbursement, our federal resources, $41,305.94. State resources, or the state sources, $388.91. And the severe needs state breakfast, which doesn't happen to us very often, but since in October, it was a 3 pay periods. It made basically our cost for serving each breakfast go to a certain number where we get additional reimbursement. And this month it was, for October, it was $672.22 of additional reimbursement. So for a total revenue for the month of October was $42,540.29. Our school lunch staff, even with Pioneer closed for 2 weeks, served over 14,000 meals in October. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Mike. If I can just interrupt you for 1 minute.
Yes.
There was a request to close Tanya's screen, but just so everyone's aware, that is the school lunch report for everyone to see that Mike is reviewing.
Oh,
all right. I just wanted to put that out there.
Sorry about that. I'm
No
reading
problem,
it off my
Mike.
screen.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. We tag team it.
Thank
Sure.
you.
So our expenditures equal the total of about $40,951.56. Again, it was a 3 pay period month, which raises our salaries and wages. But our net profit for the month across the district was about $1,500. Our closing balance, as you can see on the screen, is $44,609.55. The accrued expenses, that's in the red just under that, those are our costs that we actually had in October for food, supplies, miscellaneous property services, equipment repair that we won't see until November when the warrant comes out. So our ending balance for school lunch as of today or tomorrow, $28,210.91. That puts us in a pretty decent position, understanding that anything can happen over these next few months. And as we can see from this lunch report, losing 2 weeks of in-person schooling at Pioneer, created a $10,000 deficit, an almost $10,000 deficit at that school alone. So we're looking pretty good, and our staff is doing a phenomenal job of making sure all of our town's children are able to eat. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike. Is there any questions for Mike? I don't see any hands, but I also just want to echo that thanks to everyone within the staff, Mike, because I've heard a lot of feedback from families within the community that have been providing positive feedback about the lunches provided and all of the meals that have been provided. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Kristen.
All right, signing of the warrants, that's all set. We'll move along to subcommittee reports. The first is the negotiation subcommittee report. And as we had discussed earlier, that will be comprised of each subcommittee chair will comprise the negotiation subcommittee. And I do not believe that there are any updates from that committee because I have none. Jeannie, did you have a question? You're on mute. And she just moved on my screen.
Madam Chair,
Yes, David?
I will bet you she did what I did a little while ago, which is hit the red phone button instead of the.
Oh, and disconnected herself? We'll give
She'll
her a
likely
minute
be
to get
back.
back on. Moving on to Building and Grounds Subcommittee. Oh, go ahead,
Kristen,
Jeannie.
I'm sorry, in my haste, I hit the wrong button.
Not a
Isn't it the
problem.
nominating committee, not the negotiations committee?
Oh, I'm sorry. I read that incorrectly. Clearly, my glasses aren't working so great this evening. So, negotiation subcommittee. Is there anyone that's been on the negotiation subcommittee? Go ahead, Jeannie.
That's me.
Okay.
Jonathan, John, I might need your help here.
Sure.
After months of negotiation with negotiations with the teachers and the paraprofessional bargaining units. I believe we have come to agreements that I thought was going to be signed. Is anybody here from this? Claire?
Hi, Jeannie. Yes, hi. So we voted on it. It was a tight stretch of time, and we just voted on it early this week. It did pass. I believe that Joanne is away, but yes, it will be signed, and hopefully, yeah, within the next few days, we'll be able to get this done whenever she's back. I do want to thank everyone on the negotiation committee. It was a really easy process. It was very respectful, and we were able to get a lot done. I'd like to say in a short amount of time, but it wasn't. It was a long time, but
it was a long
time. And you know, unless anything else comes up at this point, I think we're good to go. We're very pleased with the outcome, and we want to thank you, you know, just for working so well together with us. Really appreciate it. It was very, very smooth, very friendly, nice atmosphere.
It was quite a long and tedious process for everybody.
It was.
That's all I have to report. Because I think I'm the only one from the negotiation subcommittee.
Thank you, Jeannie. And thank you for that correction. I appreciate that. Building and grounds, we don't have any updates thus far. Next is curriculum and personnel.
Yep. Okay, so we met on October 29th, and we had 2 items on our agenda. Chief Layton of Northfield was in attendance, where we discussed plans for a school resource officer, which is referenced in the superintendent's report, and will come up under new business tonight. We also discussed the superintendent's goals for the year, which, as noted back in June when we finished the evaluation, are carried over from last year. For the benefit of new members, the superintendent adopted additional new goals when the pandemic hit. And much of his energy went towards those goals. And since his goals for last year originally were meant to be multi-year goals anyway, they were kind of put on the back burner to accomplish the pandemic goals. And so they were necessarily slowed down a little bit, but we look forward to approving those same goals at the December meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next, we have the budget subcommittee report.
Nothing to report at this time. Next month, when we select the new members of the subcommittees, we'll go from there, but I'll wait for the paperwork to come out to put my name in again, unless somebody else really wants to do it. I don't mind doing it, but I had stepped down to provide an opportunity to other people if they wanted to do it, but I will take that role on again if I'm selected to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So the next is policy subcommittee report. There were a few of us that were at our last policy meeting. So Karen, I don't know if you want to share, or John.
Well, it was our first meeting with Tracy Novick of MASC, and she had sent us a whole bunch of documents related to revising the first 3 or 4 sections of our policy manual. So that was a very productive meeting, and we made a lot of agreements and put things in line with recent recommendations. And as soon as that subcommittee gets going again, I'm sure we'll continue with revising the policy manual, but I'm really happy to see that we're getting the level of guidance we are.
Thanks, Karen. And for our new members, just to bring you up to speed, as you heard at the beginning of our meeting, there were some of our committee members that were referencing our policy manual. So our policy manual is quite out of date. And it was a huge task to try and catch up. And it was quite overwhelming and a little unrealistic for the policy subcommittee to get that completely updated in a time frame that was realistic. So the committee voted to utilize the service that MASC, which is the Massachusetts Association for School Committees, they provide a service that will support and assist a school committee with updating their policies, and they take care of the administrative component, and they provide us with I'm going to call her an advisor or liaison, which is Tracy, who guides us through the process. And it's been quite productive, more productive than I think it could have been with all of us, despite all of our efforts. So that's where we are at, in the hopes of getting this manual completed. And that way we can make the recommendation to the full school committee to adopt it, so our policies are up to date and accurate. And then lastly, the district agreement subcommittee report. So I think we are going to have to regroup and recreate this subcommittee, because I think that many of our members are no longer on the school committee. And we can reach out to, once the committee's formed, we can check in with Russell to see where our draft is as far as where it lies with the state, because there was a draft that was sent to the state for review. But as everybody knows, there was some staffing changes in that department at the state, and then we experienced the COVID pandemic. So I think that covers district agreement. New business, if no one has any questions regarding subcommittee reports, is the school resource officer MOU, which everyone should have received a copy. And I see that we have a new face here on the screen, and I'm guessing you go by Bill. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. John or Karen, who would like to present this next part?
I'll let John do that.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say I can. So thanks, Bill, for joining us tonight. I don't know if Chief Layton's able to join us tonight. He had called me earlier and said he may not be able to, but that's okay. I'm glad Bill is here. So I've had recent conversations with the curriculum personnel subcommittee, as Karen mentioned, the town of Northfield, Chief Layton, regarding having a school resource officer in Pioneer on a part-time basis this year because of the COVID situation, the fact that we're in a hybrid learning model right now, and then transitioning to full-time next fall. It would allow us to have somebody in the building and give us time to possibly over the winter or into the spring form a committee, and Chief Layton would bring forth one or two or three candidates that could fill that role for next fall. It would also give us a chance to relook at the job description and see if we wanted to tweak that. But I'm, for the past 2 years, the position has been called a school security monitor, but there's been a really high turnover with that position. The people in that position have been fabulous, as have the previous school resource officers. And we have a strong relationship with our local police departments from all 4 towns. And so we believe that this will be beneficial for the remainder of this year and for future years to come. So Principal Burke and I met with Officer Bill Kimball last week, and he's willing to fill in for this year a couple days a week, which is great. And he's got quite a resume. Bill, I guess I'll let you talk, about your work experience, but I'd be very excited to have you in the building. I know Kevin Burke would be as well. So I'll turn it over to you, Bill, if you want to speak about your experience.
Sure. So I've been in the town of Northfield since 2012. Initial hiring department, so I owe them a lot for getting me started in public safety on the policing side. As for my full-time job, I'm a firefighter and an EMT for the city of Greenfield. So I have a medical background as well as firefighting. I also work for the town of Gill, which is where I reside, as a police officer. I also work for the town of Leverett, who just merged. I'm a member of that police department as well. So altogether, I probably work the same amount of hours as having a full-time job as a police officer and a full-time job as a firefighter. But I enjoy every bit of it. I do the education in the schools for the city of Greenfield for the fire safety program, which is our SAFE program. I also help with it in Gill with their fire department. For the Gill Elementary School, Giving Tree Preschool. So I work with kids a lot. My mother was a teacher, and actually she's on her last year in Greenfield, and my grandmother was a teacher. So education is strong in my family. I like reaching out to help in any way possible, and community policing is a big focus of mine. I like meeting people, going in and just making the relationships to help better communication between law enforcement and the community.
And Kristen, I just want to add that the MOU, thanks, Bill, the MOU was reviewed by our legal counsel, as well as the town of Northfield, so everybody's aware that our attorney did review this MOU.
Okay, thank you for that update. Everyone has had an opportunity to review the MOU? Okay. Yes, Alan?
Yeah, I didn't have an opportunity to read the whole thing, although I downloaded it and got partway through it. Just a couple of quick questions. First of all, we're very fortunate to have Bill, working in this capacity. I guess a couple of things that strike me, of course, when you do this, this is a 3-year obligation, and I'm kind of really leery about 3-year periods when we're just working from year to year and committing to finances. I don't know if later on it talks about part-time, but I was just wondering, this looks pretty consistent with a kind of a boilerplate MOUs that I've seen, in the past. Can this be amended, Bill, or is there any appetite to perhaps have this for, you're doing part-time this year, do it for a year? I don't know where we are going to be in COVID next year, whether we'll be in full operation or part operation, still in hybrid. So there's a lot of unknowns, both financially, particularly financially, because we don't know what the state's doing, plus not knowing what we're doing with our student population. So I respect what you do. I've had resource officers. They're great to have in the building. I'm just questioning, I'd like the part-time for now, and if there's any flexibility in just doing that for a year and then revisiting it, and then maybe do a 2-year extension or whatever. So those are just my personal thoughts.
So that would be a question we would have to pose to curriculum and personnel, because I see your hand up, David. I just want to clarify, Karen, for curriculum personnel, is that subcommittee making this recommendation to the full committee, is my assumption?
We did not vote on that. We had a discussion with the superintendent as to whether we needed to do that. And he had said he would run it by council, which said we didn't have to.
Okay. All right, David?
To Alan's point, if we stay in the buggy whip business, then maybe we, don't need this capacity, but I wonder, COVID going forward, what community policing and what school resource officer role might be in our increasingly virtualized world. Has that been considered, that as kids are spending more time at home, those relationships are, I've heard all of the testimony in favor of the relationship of counselors and adjustment counselors and teachers to the students. Well, this is an important relationship too, and the fact we're not going to be in session isn't necessarily, disqualifying of the function, the way we do it. will be different.
Kristen, can I add to
So
that?
I just,
I think David makes a good point, and something that
Sure,
we had
John.
talked about in curriculum and personnel and with Chief Layton and Bill when we met with him is, I do agree that the social emotional needs and making these connections, we would provide Bill with a school email account and address so people could contact him, if they are remote or have issues. And then I know there's a financing piece. I know Tanya, I don't know if it's okay, Kristen, if Tanya just maybe talks about that, the financing in the school
yeah,
use
I
program.
just wanted to throw out one piece out there before Tanya explains that portion. I see in my daytime job a tremendous need, and I really appreciate the way you put it, Bill, community policing. Now that we are in this remote learning situation, I see a tremendous need for you in our community and in many across the board, because we have so many students that are experiencing so many struggles beyond just the academic portion of their remote learning. It crosses over into their social emotional. We have a lot of adolescents and children who drug use, trying drugs is on the rise. As a result, kids are really struggling to deal with this pandemic in a way that's healthy and safe. So I'm happy to see that you're willing to do this work. And I think it's a tremendous need that we have right now, especially given these circumstances. So thank you. Go ahead, Tanya.
So as far as the financial piece of it goes, I did work with John and Chief Layton, and we discussed how we would move forward. And the idea right now is that Bill would be in the schools, and we would assess over the next couple months before we get into the nitty-gritty of budget season, how it's working out, what the needs are, and how to structure it moving forward in the next couple of years. But with the budget that we actually currently have, it is in line with what we were paying Northfield Police when we had the officer before for a full year. So the funding that is dedicated currently in our budget would be sufficient to even move forward with more hours in the future as we do return to more in-person learning. So we're going to try to structure this so that it falls in line with where our current budget is, so that we're not adding to the budget for this moving in the future. Obviously, outside of normal increases for inflation and coal and things.
Thank you, Tanya. Are there any other questions? I don't see any hands up. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, and again, I'm coming in pretty late on this, but so there was discussion, I'm assuming, resource officer versus, another adjustment counselor or a social worker, because you're right on point, Krista, when you talk about the stresses that are going on in the home and with kids and parents trying to be parents as well as their teacher, as well as, trying to, do a job. So I don't want my comment to in any way be misconstrued that I'm opposed to, Bill or anyone fulfilling this responsibility. I guess I'm more concerned with the unknowns and a commitment of knowing that our finances are not going to probably be very good from the state going forward. At least projections for the next 5 years don't look that good. If it ever came down to, a resource officer or keeping a teacher or someone for instructional purposes, then, that's where I would fall. And I wouldn't want, unless this is like largely funded by a grant or something, I wouldn't want to commit to a position at the expense of having to let a staff person go that, we would not want to be in a situation to make that decision. So in the end, I'll probably abstain because I didn't get a chance to sit in on so many of the discussions that I hear the bits and pieces, and I know they were much bigger than a global conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll listen, but thank you.
Thanks, Alan. I saw David's hand up and then Tanya's hand up.
So I would note that school resource officer is a legal requirement, an unfunded mandate, but a legal requirement. And it's a legal requirement to have a school resource officer or to have the grant of a waiver to not have one. So I'm pleased that we're back here. I haven't heard quite enough about how the new look forward will be, but I trust that we will not be, if we're not in session, essentially subsidizing Northfield's police budget, that you know, the work will be done in this field. So I'm in favor.
Thank you, David. Tanya?
Yeah, so I just wanted to fill Alan in, obviously, as I'm sure you haven't had a chance to dive into our full budget or look at the individual lines. The budget for this particular line is only $28,000, so it's about half of middle of the road teacher, and Northfield has in the past basically split the cost of the staff member with us. So it's not the full burden on us. We're not paying benefits, anything like that. So we get invoiced by Northfield Police on a monthly basis for the hours that are served by the school resource officer for this position. And it is indeed, like David said, under Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 37P is a mandate unless you do receive a waiver from the state as well.
Thank you, Tanya. And I have to say, I think Karen and myself and John were part of the original process when Karen and I were newly elected, having gone through all of those steps between triaging, the school resource officer, the role, the unfunded mandate by the state for the position. And I have to say, I find this to be a really positive outcome from where we started to now. So, and then Julie, I saw your hand up as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that the school resource officer does provide a very unique role in the school environment, that which of, you know, the other roles that Alan described. I think it's a bit naive to think that, you know, the presence of a school resource officer doesn't provide a pretty tremendous effect on the school community at large. And I also think that, you know, our ultimate goal is to have the kids back in school face to face. And while I can appreciate the fact that we have done a tremendous job of getting online learning, you know, up and running due to this pandemic, that we need to be looking forward and projecting towards the goal. We already know that a certain degree of hybrid learning is probably going to be here to stay, given, you know, the pandemic, but we certainly need to be looking forward, and the ultimate goal for the teachers and for the kids are to be face to face.
Thank you, Julie. So if there aren't any more questions, we can entertain a motion if there is someone that would like to make a motion to accept the MOU.
Kristen, I'll make a motion that we accept the MOU as written.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Kristen,
Yeah.
this is Karen. I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any discussion? I'm just
Kristen.
writing down. Yes.
I'd just like to say I've known Billy Kimball for quite some time, and he's quite capable of the task he's being given.
That's wonderful to hear. I've heard a lot of positive things about Bill as well. So I think he sounds like the perfect candidate for this position. All right, so what I'll do, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to go down the line. If people can just state their name and their vote, please. Okay. So Jim?
Jim Bell, yes.
Julie?
Julie Burke, yes.
Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Mike?
Mike Townsley, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
David?
David Young, yes.
Alan?
I'm going to vote yes, because I think that it's important that this be a unanimous vote. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
Michelle Drew, so yes.
And Kristen Gonzalez, yes. So the motion passes, and warm welcome to Bill.
just want to say thank you for the support. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free to reach out through Jonathan and get my contact information, because I'd be happy to address anybody at any time.
Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you. All right. Next on the agenda is update on possible 6th grade move to Pioneer.
Yeah, Kristen, I asked Kevin Burke to speak on this since he's spearheading the committee on the 6th grade move. So Kevin, are you available or present?
I am here.
All right. Do you want to give us a quick update?
Sure. We have a meeting set up for next week. We kind of had to reconfigure our committee since everything happened with COVID. The goal of the committee is, I think when we get back, is to review what was done prior. And I think one of the main goals is to determine what our goal is in regards to having 6th grade come up to Pioneer. Looking at what's the reasons why we are doing this and what is the benefit for our students and for our school. And that's going to be the focus of our meeting next week.
Thank you, Kevin. Mike?
Kristen?
Yeah.
I think the 6th grade move up is a time sensitive thing. And I would like to, I guess, request or make a motion that the school committee at next month's school committee meeting vote to have the 6th grade move to Pioneer for the fall of 2021. And the reason, I guess, well, that's my motion first, and then I can discuss it once if we have a second.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, Ann, were you able to get that motion?
So what I'm hearing is Mike moves that the 6th grade move up be considered for the fall of 2021.
At the next meeting.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So the motion is to just to have that be considered at the next meeting, not to make it happen.
Well, it'd be vote to have it happen, but I'll get into the particulars if it's seconded.
Okay.
Michelle?
I'd like to second Mike's motion.
Okay. Mike, would you like to further explain?
Okay, I guess I'd like to start first off with the numbers at Pioneer. So since 2013, we've lost 257 students. That's what we're down. We were at 540 students in 2013. We're down to 279 or less right now. This is almost resembles a school lunch deficit. I mean, we lost 14 students in 2013, and on down we got minus 40, minus 39, minus 33, 19, 49, 49, 13, and 19. We're spiraling into deep trouble here. And if we don't bring students into this school, which we've got, I think, 57 sixth graders, we've got a potential of really having a serious issue with our programs at Pioneer. I'm not looking to cut positions. I'm looking for the 6th grade teachers being able to be in one building and working collaboratively together, saving the programs and boosting the numbers at Pioneer, roughly 55 to 60 more kids there. And then at the elementary school level, it would provide, you could start your band in 3rd grade instead of 4th, and provide more room for the students there. I mean, we've done a good job when we merged the elementary schools because we've provided smaller class numbers for all the kids in the district in the elementary schools. But I think the other thing is at Pioneer, there's more services for them currently at Pioneer than there is in the elementary schools. The elementary schools do a really phenomenal job with our kids, but we're getting to the point where we're at the bottom of the barrel right now. I mean, you know, in a couple more years, we may be even looking at moving 5th grade up there, depending on what happens. So I'm really concerned with what our numbers are and what's being offered at Pioneer. We're losing kids, you know, faster than we're taking them in. So if we act now, we're going to be acting too late, and we need to take action to solve the problem. And I think moving kids up there and providing them more opportunities, if we can bring back a shop class, the art, the band program, the theater, all this stuff, some of this stuff is at 0.5 or non-existent now. And also if we can get back to, you know, after the COVID hopefully gets taken care of, maybe the 6th graders, they'll have sports as an opportunity also. I just think if we don't act now, and, you know, the parents have to realize that if their child is in 4th grade now, and they may be thinking, well, I don't want my 6th grade student to be up at Pioneer. But when they get to 7th grade and there's no programs at Pioneer because we didn't have students and we lost the programs, that's what my fear is. Having kids that are working their way through the elementary schools, getting to 7th grade, 6th grade doesn't move up, and we didn't take the opportunity to try to move kids up to keep programs or bring programs back. That's my concern.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any other, Michelle, I see your hand up.
The reason that I seconded Mike's motion is I didn't get on this committee to make decisions over 2 to 3 years. And the district agreement is a prime example of how we don't even have an update on what is going on with that. I think that's going on 3 years. We have got to be proactive. My concern is we're going to have to decimate the budget at some point because only 3 towns can support it. And I agree with Mike. What are we going to do? Take away important programs for our children. I am not looking forward to taking away more programs for our kids. We need to see better programs, AP courses, and that's the only reason why I'm seconded it. We got to move quickly. And I think this is the year to think about progress. And that's why I seconded his motion.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to go to Raina and then to Mike.
I want to say that I think you both make very good points, but I also want this to be a considered decision, and that, you know, Kevin's talking about a committee that's gathering the information and finding out, is this the best thing for our kids? It's, you know, it makes a lot of sense in some ways, but we also need to think about what's academically appropriate for 6th graders and for our community. So I'd like to, I don't want to rush into a vote if we don't have the information, a complete picture, or as complete a picture as we can get. And to explore all the possible solutions. If we move 6th grade up and then in a couple of years we move 5th grade up, I feel like we're kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Thanks, Raina. I saw Jim's hand, then David's hand, then Tanya's hand.
So are we getting a little off course?
So there's a motion on the floor. It was seconded. We're having our discussion. I'll go to David. Jim, I don't want to cut you off, but we do have to finish the motion and vote on it. So just so we can ensure the process goes. David?
There is, I understand, sound educational basis for bringing the 6th grade in, because these are considered middle school children, and the curriculum breaks, as I understand it. I'm not an educator, but I've sometimes listen, and I think there's a break between 5 and 6. And that's been pretty well discussed, but we've had a pretty major turn of school committee members, and we may need to step back and Mike and bring folks up to speed. The other thing that I want us to consider here as an additional benefit, perhaps, I don't know. I'm troubled by the lack of spacing and overcrowding in some of the elementary at Northfield. There was a class, with 3-foot spacing, and so I don't know how how the deployment would change, but it would seem like we might be creating a little more elbow room at our elementary schools, and we have all this space at Pioneer. So when it lines up educationally to move 6th grade to the middle school, and it could alleviate a problem at the elementary school, those are additional benefits.
Thanks, David. Tanya, did you want to say something? And then Mike, and then I want to get back to making sure we get the vote, and that Ann restates the motion before we do the vote.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what David just said too, and I don't know that Ariel's on here, but this has been in discussions for almost a year now, and there have been multiple discussions about teachers at the middle school level wanting a true middle school model with 6 through 8, because the curriculum is written 6 through 8 and allows for the differentiation in education amongst the different subject areas. And it's very difficult to have a teacher teaching all the subjects at 6th grade and then bringing them into the differentiated model at the 7th grade. So just to echo what David said about the educational piece, that's how curriculum is written, is 6 through 8 for middle school. So there is, that's been the discussion really for the last year.
So I just want to be clear. Thank you, Tanya. I just want to be clear that Mike's motion, and Mike, correct me if I'm misspeaking, is that for the next meeting, you would like to have on the agenda a vote to move the 6th grade up for the 2021 academic year.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I guess one of my other main things would be that we watched elementary schools get moved and consolidated together. And we voted to have that happen, but we let the staff, the superintendent, the principals put that into play. We don't need to micromanage that, but we need to recognize that something needs to be done, and we make the decision that we want to do it, but let them do it the way it's supposed to be done. We shouldn't micromanage that process. We didn't micromanage the elementary school transitions. We've got capable staff, but looking at the numbers and recognizing that there's a problem, I think we need to make a decision so that the staff and the principals and the superintendent can get to work and maybe form a task force with parents to set that model in play in the transition, so the parents can be involved with how they want to see that with the principals and the teachers of the 6th grade. I don't want to micromanage it, but I think we need to take action to allow it to happen.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Jeannie, and then we'll do the vote.
Okay. Just a little concerned about jumping to a vote immediately next month before we have a chance to hear the results of Kevin's meeting with parents and other stakeholders in this. Certainly, if we wait until January, it's not going to make any difference about moving the 6th grade. And I think it's important that we get the results of the meeting with Kevin.
Thank you, Jeannie. Go ahead, Mike.
And I guess I make the motion to set the course of the path and action, I guess. If we don't have the vote next month and we want to hear from Kevin next month, and set a timeline to vote on it in January. I just think we need a timeline because a lot of times we get involved in things and we don't set a timeline to take a course of action. And then the next thing you know, we're into March, and then it's too late. Because I don't want to lose the opportunity because we didn't have time to plan to move sixth grade. That is not. We don't want to do that. We need to, I guess, take action. If it's not next month, then if in January, if we want to, not pass the motion, then that so be it. Then we can hear from Kevin next month and then make a motion to vote on it in January. But I think it is a time-sensitive issue. And the first meeting that we went to, there was quite a few people in favor of it, and a lot of it was from the staff. So, the sixth grade teachers working collaboratively together under one roof is a big part of that too.
So I'm going to go to David, Julie, Kevin, and then I thought I saw Alan. Was your hand up, Alan? Okay. All right. So David, Julie, Kevin, Alan.
So I'm going to go into the level of budgets. It's November. We're starting our budgetary process, or should be. And by the time January comes around, we're really in the finishing touches. So we either need to do two budgets, and maybe it's not that daunting a task, but I'd at least like, because I've been warming to this idea for some time, and I wasn't friendly to it early on. I like a sense of the school committee. I mean, we still want to get the input of parents and such, but we are the school committee. I know some members are new and they'll feel they're not at this time ready to make a knowledgeable decision. But I'm really leaning in that direction. And I think the school committee ought to go on record. And a big part of it is I'm not comfortable with the lack of ventilation and close proximity that we're operating in some sites. And here we've got a valid educational model and a lot of empty space in that building, which is more modern and has better ventilation.
Okay. Thanks, David, Julie, Kevin, and then Alan.
I just wanted to make the point that I think it's important to remember that we're not proposing, or I don't understand it as that we're proposing to skip sixth grade. And I think that from moving it to the elementary school to, the Pioneer campus, it can feel that way. But really it's relocating it. We're not reinventing the wheel here. I myself, many moons ago, I was part of a middle school model that was 6th, 7th, and 8th, and it worked very well. And it's really an opportunity for the teachers at Pioneer to really build a robust middle school program. And it gives them another year to truly shine and to get those students ready for the high school.
Thanks, Julie. Kevin?
I just wanted to reflect on the last part that Mike had said, and I agree. I think having that report come out next month and getting that report from the actual sixth grade reconfiguration committee, and then having the committee vote with that, and whether that takes time to review or whether it happens in the next one, that's up to the school committee. But I definitely think the committee and myself would probably like to have this month to review, present to the next school committee, and then let the school committee decide at that point in time.
Thank you, Kevin. Alan?
Wow. So there are a lot of good points. Let me just back up. I want to say that if you have professional learning communities, the benefits of having that staff all together in a 6 to 8, and particularly the 6th grades, to be able to look at their teams, what works best when teaching, what doesn't, has tremendous advantages for the professional learning community, tremendous advantages for professional development that you offer to the staff. you know, in terms of the plan, because I think, you know, you do need to move forward and decide what you're doing, or we do. I shouldn't say you now, I'm part of the you. I think that, you already know what you have. And so it's really easy to have an A and a B. And the A part is just rolling forward what you would normally budget and how that would look. And your B plan would be to have this transition happen. And then what are the benefits? I just want to say that there's the educational benefits are just as important as the financial ones. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. If you're doing something for just finances, I don't usually like that. If you're doing it because you see educational opportunities where you could have more robust learning going on, then that should be helping to carry the day for moving this initiative forward. And if you get the financial benefits out of this, then I don't know how you're going to be presenting, but if you do it and here are the educational advantages and you list those out, here's the financial ones, and this is why you're making whatever recommendation you're making. And then as long as you figure out a way to get your parent input, and at least have a forum or an opportunity to have them put their questions maybe on the website or something, so someone can, respond to them so that they have a chance to say, hey, here's what I'm concerned about. I'm sure you'd be able to address and alleviate many of, I'll call them fears, but the concerns that they have. So some mechanism like that, without having to have a big Zoom meeting or something like that, would probably go a long way. I think I covered the things that were running through my brain.
Thanks, Alan. So I just wanted to say something. Having been a part of that committee to study the 6th grade move from the onset, we have had some discussions. Unfortunately, as Kevin had mentioned, the pandemic sort of put a stop to our ability to continue with the next steps. But I also agree with Michelle in that the more time goes by, the more tasks that we're going to have. And I feel like after sitting on this committee for a couple years now, I see the tasks that we don't address slip off the plate because we are putting more on our plate and we never are able to circle around and make decisions on things that, we had intentions on making decisions. So I would like to see it on our agenda for the December meeting and give the committee an opportunity to meet and put together some information to present. That way at the next school committee meeting, that can be done and then we can take our vote at that meeting. That way, as we move forward into the new year, we can work collaboratively and figure out what our next steps are going to be.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Another thing I'd like to add to that, possibly going forward, once decisions like that are made, I would like to see some of these committees work in a multidisciplinary mode. Right now we have policy, we have budget, we work in silos. And maybe some of those committees can get together. Maybe curriculum and personnel can meet with policy. And so I don't know. It's just, we can move forward faster if we're all talking together and communicating better and not working in these silos where we have to come back to the full committee to vote. And I don't know, I just think there's a lot we can do. I have the energy to work in multidisciplinary committees. And I think we've got a lot of new faces and maybe we should just be thinking out of the box for the future.
I hear what you're saying, Michelle. I also feel like having, again, been on the committee for a couple of years, something that I've observed, I see the value and the purpose of the subcommittees. I think the barrier or maybe the struggle that we have is that people need to be aware of the process of how the committees function and the steps that are needed to be taken so that we can make those decisions and keep things moving along. I heard you reference the district agreement subcommittee. I could give you 15 reasons as to why we're in the state we're in, legitimate reasons, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, we're still waiting on that. So I think it's really about education, about knowing what our roles are and the steps that we need to take to ensure that we are able to make solid decisions and keep moving forward, because there's a lot of work that we're playing catch up on. At the same time, we have a lot of work that's coming our way. So we're tasked double with the amount of things that we need to get done. So I see Alan's hand up. And then I'd like to vote, please, because I'm trying to be conscientious of the time. We're at 9:15 already. And prior to the new committee members, I'm going to call us the older committee members, we had made a commitment to the committee and to our community members to not have these long meetings, because I tend to see faces fading and people don't function so well once we get into these late hours. So I'd like to keep us on task and keep moving. So Alan, and then we'll vote.
Yeah, and it's just something for the full community to think about, and maybe you and I, Chris, can talk about this. There's certain tasks that each subcommittee has to do. You know, it's important, it's on their plate. But if you take a look as a committee, if you establish what are your school committee goals, what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and you lay those out, these are the 5 or 6 things we want to do. And then you take your subcommittees, and each subcommittee then focuses on that and say, okay, what do we have to do around policy to make this happen, or whatever? What do we have to do around, you know, the budget implications? And you break that down so that each subcommittee is working toward a common school committee goal, so that it all really comes together because there was a common purpose in what the subcommittees were trying to accomplish. That said, going back, things like regional agreement, there'll be other things that a subcommittee, you know, would have to spend some of their time on as well. That's all. I don't want to make a larger point, but I think there is a way to accomplish what Michelle is trying to do. And if the committee is feeling like they're overwhelmed or they're in silos or segregated, maybe there's a way that we could figure out how to coordinate those efforts.
Okay, I see Jim's hand, and then we do have to vote. So Jim is going to be the last person.
Absolutely the last person. I'm having flashbacks of how the school committee used to be and how we take one subject and beat it to death. And I'm hoping that I can please ask the school committee to not beat things to death. Let's vote.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so if there's no further discussion, I'm going to go down the line. Please say your name and what your vote is. And remember, the motion is that we put it on the agenda for a vote at the next meeting. All right, Jim?
Yes. Jim Bell votes
Julie?
yes.
Okay. Julie?
Julie Burke, yes.
Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton, no.
Mike?
Mike Townsley, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
David?
David, yes.
Alan?
I'm a vote for next meeting. I guess I'd say no.
No. Okay. Michelle?
Michelle Druso, yes.
And Kristen Gonzalez, yes. So the motion passes. We have 2 noes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. So that will be something on our agenda to vote on at the next meeting. And then, as we discussed, Kevin, if you would be able, when we meet, as I'm a part of the committee, we can maybe put a presentation together for the next meeting.
Yes, certainly.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So the next item on our agenda is the Gill Montague Regionalization Committee update.
So that would be me. So that's the Gill Montague Regional. We're a planning board. We're not a committee. So I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, since we've got a lot more to do. So We came about because we were appointed, we were voted at the various town meetings, then appointed by the moderator. We then, we only were able to have a couple of meetings in person because of the pandemic and the way we wanted to do things and involve stakeholders across the board, like the school committee meeting, you know, we ran into some difficulties. We hired a consultant, the Abrahams Group. The committee, the planning board then formed subcommittees, and it was very clear to the planning board that the financial aspect of becoming sustainable and affordable to the towns was on an equal footing, and maybe even the educational part had a leg up on that. That we saw, looking at the financial picture going forward, very concerned about some of the things I heard this evening, that we wanted to not just look at, we have a program of study that sounds really good, and then when you only have 2 or 3 students signing up, or you can't run the program. And so we broke up down into an educational subcommittee that really focused on what could be if we were part of the same district. And then we have a really talented and brilliant finance subcommittee that has been crunching numbers and creating charts and working with the Abrahams Group. So those were the 2 focuses that were as we went forward. The consultants did the best they could in this environment to collect a lot of information. They wrote a draft of their report. We got that during the summer. I had each subcommittee look at that report and develop a list of questions and look at clarifications they were looking for. We pulled that all together. We presented that to the Abrahams Group. They were really good at taking a look at the 2 pages worth of things that we had that we wanted them to respond to. They did that. They have then sent a preliminary back to us to take a look at. I'm actually having a phone conference tomorrow morning to just give the final approval of their report. Then it will be, that's it. And once that's done, I suspect that next week that report will then be a public document, and then we can figure out how we want to go forward with that. I want to stress a couple of things. That's only one data point. You know, the consultants aren't going to tell us, you know, what to do. They've made different recommendations in there because we asked them to take a look at things and where you could make recommendations. The planning board doesn't necessarily agree or disagree with those recommendations. Right now, it is what it is. Until we have a chance to talk to teachers, talk to administrators and parents and kids, and get the other part of the picture so we fully understand the dynamics of all of this, we're all trying to keep an open mind to this. And once that's done, we end up making a recommendation to the town, either to go forward with this initiative or to not go forward with it, or to maybe have some other recommendation expanding it. I have no idea, and I don't think any member of the planning board does. Our interest is to make sure that we can provide the best education in these 2 districts and have it be affordable to the towns. So if you project out 5 years and see where Pioneer may be, where Montague may be, there's just so many assumptions and so many things that we don't know. So I don't want anyone to feel that, you know, we've made up our minds, we know what we're doing. We won't know until we collect a lot more information and then have a really good give and take conversation amongst planning board members to finally come to a consensus of what is it that we're going to put forward. At our last meeting, we did have participation from the administrators in both districts, which was really good. And they continue to provide, you know, a solid base for financial information. And we need to do the same with the educational component. So with that, I'll just, I guess if someone has questions, fine. Otherwise, another report will follow once we have the final report from the consultants.
So can I just have folks put themselves on mute because I'm hearing a lot of paper shuffling and I can't quite hear things. Alan, can I just ask, are you still chairing that committee?
I am.
Okay.
And the role of the chair is interesting because I basically, put the agendas together, and then the subcommittees and the members sort of create the direction and through their comments and ideas and what they would like to see happen next. So I want to be really cautious because I don't know what their collective thinking is.
Sure.
We haven't gotten to that.
Hold on one second. I know, and I say this with the utmost respect to everyone. I think that there's not one person that sits on this school committee that isn't involved on another committee or involved in another way. I know I value the work that's being done and the exploration. I just hope that we all can have healthy and appropriate and ethical boundaries so that we are members of the Pioneer Valley Regional School Committee. And then we all also hold other roles within community organizations. So I just want to put that out there. I've gotten some feedback from community members expressing some concerns. And again, I say this with respect and appreciation for the work that's being done, because I think sustainability for our rural schools is very important. But I also want to express the concerns that have been brought to my attention, and I'll leave it there.
And will you
ahead,
give me
David.
those concerns so that you'll share those so that I can pass them on to the planning board?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, David.
That was way too oblique. I guess perhaps I must guess that you're talking about folks having hidden agendas or failure to uphold the duty of loyalty. Don't interrupt me, please. I can see you about to. I differ with Alan with respect to him saying that report was will soon be a public document. It was produced. It was like our minutes, our draft minutes, our notes. They are public documents, and I shared them. He and I had a pretty bitter disagreement. He still carries his view. I did mine. To his credit, he got over. We had a pretty strong disagreement, and he got over it. And it's part of why I supported him for chair. I don't know what you're talking about. I serve on that committee by virtue of being a school committee member, and other members of the 6-town planning board serve on by virtue of being school committee members. So we are working on behalf of our member towns in looking at this planning exercise. Nobody's trying a slam dunk here. I'm personally of the opinion that this 6-town effort is way too little, way too late, and we need a Franklin County wide district with a single superintendent and a number of schools and locally controlled elementary schools where that is desired, and that the turmoil involved in making this change is such that it just doesn't make sense to shoot so short. I support very small schools, as you may suspect, so I don't indict Pioneer for its small size. But I think your speech was totally uncalled for, and I'm offended.
Well, I'm
Unless
sorry,
you can
David.
clarify, you've got to fill in some cracks because it was way too oblique.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel offended. That was not my intention. That's why I stated that I have the utmost respect for everyone on this committee, and I don't have anything further to say than what I said. So if anyone else
Can
has
I ask
anything.
could I ask the question of the elephant in the room? You withdrew from being chair because of your life and pressures, and here you have Phoenix. Could you provide me and perhaps others, either privately or here and now, what has changed? Are you going to bail on us again?
The reason why I was not able to succeed as chair or continue with the job as chair was because the way COVID affected my employment, and I was having to work a different schedule. Since things have settled, I'm back to a schedule that allows me to make this commitment and fulfill it and see it through. And I think having a vice chair that is very willing and motivated to work will make this position more successful. It's very difficult. It's a lot of work for the co-chairs or vice and chair, however you want to term it. It's a lot of work, and for it to be done successfully at that time, I wasn't able to do it.
Okay, so I see we have an executive session coming up, and the matter of that 6-town draft report being a public document or not is why I, as a town coordinator in Warwick, as well as an elected member, do not participate in executive sessions because I can't unsee or unhear anything. So I'll soon be leaving. But in addition, I want to remind before I leave my fellow newly elected school committee members who are employees of the district or a member town that you must, under the law, make a disclosure. It's very simple. You write a letter, you send it to your town clerk under the law. I always send a copy to the Ethics Commission because I have frequent flyer points for the number of times they have to look me up on complaints. So I just give them the information. But those of us who are employees of the school district or the member towns need to make that Chapter 26820C disclosure. So please be sure to.
Thanks, David. Tanya, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to ask a quick question with respect to the Gill Montague Regionalization Advisory Board while we were on that topic. Alan mentioned that administrators from both districts were involved in that, but I'm not sure what administrators he's referring to because the last meeting I personally attended was a Zoom meeting revolving finances and providing a report on my documents. And to my knowledge, John and I have not been invited to be part of any meetings since that. And that was probably back in April. And we haven't been privy to any of the report information that's been worked on since then.
John, didn't you join our last meeting, the one that just went over questions?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't present. I did work with the consultants when they were, requesting information from the district, but that's the last time I was a part of. I didn't attend that last meeting or any.
All right, then I stand. I thought you were there. We had a bunch of other people that joined in. I thought you were one of them.
I think John and I both would just like to see a little more collaboration between Pioneer and the districts, because when the article came out in the paper, we were unaware that it had been completed, and John and I got a lot of questions. And I think some of the school committee members got a lot of questions when the article was put in the paper about a report about both the schools merging essentially, and Pioneer not having any information or having discussed it recently. So just looking for some more collaboration there and being a little more transparent and open and involving both districts. I'm not sure what Gill Montague's involvement has been in it, but I do know that their business manager has been involved quite all along the way and been privy to more information than we have. So I think that's something that we need to work on as we move forward in that collaboration.
Right, and I would agree. And through no fault of your own, it ended up that we weren't able to get you and John on board until later in the process. I think the next step, which is the Public Relations Committee, as we look at how we're going to go forward, is to have the report released, because that'll be the final document, and it will say such out. And then probably we'll have a meeting with the 2 superintendents and 2 administrators and the myself and Greg, just to answer any questions you have, and then we'll make sure that you get the report, and we'll make sure that the school committee gets the report, and that we do exactly what you said in terms of let's collaborate much better than we have as we explore options. In the end, I think we all want the best education for our kids, and we want to see how we can make that happen.
Karen, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the composition of your board changes as your roles in the community change. Do you have bylaws as far as how many school committee members from each town can be on it, and likewise individuals from town government?
That's
Right,
a
you
good
have to
question,
have,
Karen, because
oh, I was
I'm
gonna answer
sorry,
it.
Ellen. I was just thinking, because Pat was our representative for the town of Northfield. And I think, I know Raina, you sit on that committee, so I guess that would be a question to be posed for the town moderator, because they were involved in that process at the onset. So I'm not sure, maybe Alan, you can shed some light on that, because we'll need another representative from Northfield.
So we have to have at least one school committee member from each town. It doesn't have to be only one, but we have to have at least one, and to have a community representative. So the composition is 3 members from each town. So there are 18 members on the planning board. So whoever took over those new seats, that was going to be a question of you can't say, hey, I'm on the school committee, but I want to serve as a town, representative. If you're on the school committee and you're appointed, then you're operating as a school committee representative.
So just to clarify, is David a school committee representative?
Thank you for asking. May I proceed, Madam Chairman?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, go ahead.
So, yeah, I am a school committee representative, and had I not sought write-in re-election, I'd have been done. And because of my employment as town coordinator, the only way I can be on the school committee is by election, because you can, as we all know, we can only hold one appointive office.
Right.
So the only way that I could be on this 6-town planning board would be by virtue of the, and I went to the ethics commission and my own counsel, and I got a lot of counsel on it, and that's my only way in. So had I not run for school committee, I would be without a seat on the collaborative. I'd be out without a seat on the Warwick Educational Advisory Committee, which is a subset of the school committee in the district agreement. I'd be out of a job at the 6-town planning board, and no school committee meetings, four meetings. And that's the only way that I can. And so had I not been elected, I couldn't be appointed, because I'm already hold appointed office as a town coordinator. Can't have a second appointed job. So we did look at that with Alan, though, in terms of, is there any limit on the number of school committee members? No, those the other 2, all the appointments are by the moderator of the town. One of them is a school committee member from the town, so by virtue of, and the other 2 are moderator appointments. The moderator can appoint a school committee member or someone who becomes a school committee member. Again, a school committee member got elected after holding appointed office. That cleanses it.
So in the case of Leiden, where Michelle was already appointed, is that right, Michelle?
Well, in my view, she should not have been, and I don't think they understood that she was being appointed to a regional school committee, because they told her that she needed to go to the Leiden selectmen, and in fact, she needed to go to get an exemption from all 4 selectmen, such as Jim Bell had to seek out. And
I don't understand.
Well, I went to the ethics board and I have
I know
it in
you did.
writing.
I know you did. You're fine.
No,
It's all over, done and good now.
No,
We're dancing on the head of a pin here, and I'm happy to play.
No, but here's my question. Our school committee member on that board was Abby Pratt, and she is now not on the school committee. So
I think you should talk to your moderator and seek appointment.
Okay, I will.
I would appreciate that.
Mhm.
You bring a lot.
Thank you, David.
It looks like we'll be reaching out to our town moderators.
Which is hard to do in this town.
All right. Is there any other conversation regarding that committee update? Okay, let's move along. Other business not anticipated at the time of the posting. So I would like for everybody to, I would like to make a request for everyone to email me your first, second, and third choice for subcommittees so that I can have that in preparation for the next meeting. That way we can get a jump start on that. The subcommittees are mentioned on our agenda.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's all of them. Okay.
that's all of them, in addition to the negotiations, but we kind of touched upon that earlier this evening.
You mean nominating?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep saying that. I apologize. It's that hour where I need to stop. Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, Kristen, is there a mission statement, for lack of a better word, for, when your people are signing up that says the goal or the mission of the Building and Grounds Subcommittee is?
So
and that,
it is.
So can you send that
there
as
is
well?
one in our. There is one in that policy manual that we referenced earlier, and I'm happy to pull it from the manual if people would like, or you can search it. But I can send out an email to all of our committee members so that you can have the link to it and research that.
That'd be great. Thank you. Before we decide. Thank you.
Sure. David?
Could I talk about the collaborative a little bit? It's in the context of committees.
Of course.
Because I've served in that capacity and of late only taken one other committee assignment. But I want to tell folks, the new members especially, about it and offer the opportunity to go to those it's not so bad going now that it's Zoom too. The meetings alternate between Northfield and Greenfield theoretically, but they are Zoom meetings. The collaborative is, I think, 43 school districts. Its headquarters is in Northampton. It's a bit of a behemoth because a past executive director expanded it far beyond the scope of providing shared services, kind of like our Council of Governments in planning department in a number of areas provides shared services. The idea of a collaborative was a way, especially to provide special needs, where schools would band together under an organization rather than by specialists and such. Our collaborative has a whole portfolio of literacy and education programs in the prison system in Massachusetts, which makes its budget about $50 million instead of the 8 or 9 million. They do professional development. As a school committee member, I'm more aware of it because I'm a collaborative member. You get discounts on professional development things and conferences, and because you're not going after credits, it's even cheaper. I think the district might even pay. I don't know that I've ever put in for it. It's meaningful, and if somebody else wants to do it, that's something else to put in. Otherwise, I'll keep doing it and pick one other committee. But I want to throw that out there for folks. The other thing for new members, we know we need to take the new school committee member training. Because of my deficiencies, I do it every 2 years anyway. So I'm going to take it for the 1, 2, 3, 4th time. And the collaborative offers it. And the so
David, you beat me to the punch on that one. I was going to talk about that next.
All right. Well, that's my lead in. I'll stop now. I won't steal all your thunder.
Thanks. No problem. So for new members, if you're not aware, you are required to take a training. The collaborative offers it. MASC also offers it. It is a training for new school committee members. It's about a day. They offer it in various locations across the state. Please take a peek. Once you get your school committee email set up, you will then get an MASC ability to log in and have an account with MASC as a result. And then you can find and register for the training there. And for those of us who have been on the committee now 2 years about, think about doing it again. It's always good to have a refresher, and I feel like I learned a lot when I took it the first time. The other thing that some people have been asking is that Leiden still has a third vacancy for a school committee member. So we're waiting to hear from the town moderator on that to see what's happening. Last I heard, they were counting votes, but for those in question, that we do have one more seat that we have to fill. Go ahead, Michelle.
Town clerk, not town moderator, and she has shared that with me, but I told her she needed to email the superintendent because Joanne reached out to her, but now Joanne's off for a few days.
Okay.
So, and then, that person who won the write-in has to want to do it, so has to accept it.
Of course.
So.
And then the other thing is that Tanya, when we first started and you became the director of finance, you did a brief training for us to explain the various forms. I'm not sure if the new folks would be interested in having that or if you would be willing to do that, but I just wanted to put that out there. You gave like a director of finance 101 little lesson for us to understand what was going on.
Oh boy, I'd have to go back and watch recordings of what I did. That was a while ago. Yeah, I can maybe revisit that.
Okay.
And if you can maybe give me a date on when we did that, just so I can go back and look at the recap that I did. We've done a lot since then, so.
Yeah, it was more so like going over the forms that you present, what they mean.
Oh, yeah.
Just so we were knowledgeable in that for anyone that may have not seen those forms before or don't realize how they're comprised in all of the detailed work that you do. David, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to say to new school committee members, I think the most important piece of information you'll get mailed is the school committee expenditure report. If you look at nothing else, and you should look at everything, but look at the school committee expenditure report. And I find in terms of ballparking our situation, that that categorical budget, Tanya had it up there with 13, 15 lines. The best thing to keep your eye on. That's like a cover sheet on top of all of that detail. The other thing to know is that governments and nonprofits and schools do fund accounting. So if you're used to doing QuickBooks in your own business, this is different. It starts with what we voted for. So we have expenditure budgets and we have revenue budgets, and our expenditure budget starts with how much we authorized to spend, and we subtract out of it. And that's the balance you're looking at. And in your regular old business, you'd look at, how much did we spend on telephone and internet this year? So Tanya will bring you through a lot of detail. That's, in my opinion, the failures of this district, of this school committee while I was on it, had to do with the school committee expenditure report and inattention to it.
All right. Thanks, David. All right, we'll move along. Executive session is now listed. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Can I bring something else up under unanticipated?
Sure.
Just for future. As we just heard from Alan, the report for the Gill Montague Pioneer District merger information. I was thinking, do we want to look at consolidation within our own district as far as like at the high school, looking at possibly merging the superintendent's position and the principal's position if the numbers continue to drop down. This is nothing that's immediate, but maybe towards the end of the contract periods for those positions, is it something the committee, maybe in January or February, we maybe take up maybe a study on it and see what like a feasibility study to see if it's something that we want to look at doing, and see if it would be something that would be worthwhile. Because I know the towns are looking at the administration fees, and that's one of their big things that they've said in the past year. So I think with these numbers, we've got to start looking at everything. Not to say that the stuff is going to happen, but if we don't think ahead at the next steps of where we're going to be, typically committees wait too long before they act, and we got to be proactive on where we're going.
Thanks, Mike. I saw David's hand up.
Besides belt tightening, let's think in terms of growing the business. I forgot to mention with respect to the collaborative, some special education activities that are occurring right within one of our campuses at Northfield. And I'd love to franchise Tanya. She's in, business managers are in short supply and small districts can't really afford one. And she's going to have us whipped in shape pretty soon. So that it's not going to be the terrible weight lift that we've been. I'd like to think. Warwick's going to be looking for superintendency union services, and should Pioneer look at expanding its breadth to so perhaps providing financial services to other districts or schools or governments, and the other side, the revenue side, should be attended to as well.
Go ahead, Mike.
I like what David just had to say. But this is how we start the conversation. It's good to get these things talking, get talking about them and see what the possibilities are. Not to say that one scenario is going to happen or the other, but if we don't start talking outside the box, we're never going to get there. I guess that's my point. It's looking at start talking about one thing and then it leads you into something that may be better.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in order for us to go into executive session, we need a motion, we need a second, and then we need to do roll call vote, which requires us to state our name, our town, and to go into the executive session. So
I'm going to leave now, if the minutes would reflect that, and I'd just like to say I am so pleased to be joined by so many out-of-boxers.
Thanks, David.
Kristen, I'd like to do the same. I'm going to step out. Enjoy your executive session. I'll be abstaining from it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good night, everybody.
You as well.
All right, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we go into executive session to discuss, sorry, I'm trying to find my agenda.
Thank you.
To discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the teachers and support personnel.
Can you finish reading that, Michelle, please? Because we need the whole thing read.
Oh, you do? If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, you. That was Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Yeah, and to finish that, can you then announce, because the last part was really important, that you're going to return to open session?
Actually, the chair, the open meeting law states that the chair has to declare after the executive to return to open session.
And it is our intention to return into open session, so I'll make sure that we
Yeah.
do that. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay? We'll go down the list of those individuals who are here. Jim?
Jim Bell, Bernardston, yes.
Kristen, this is
Yes?
Jean. Don't we have to invite Jonathan or any of the other stakeholders for this to join us?
Yes, thank you, Jeannie, for that reminder. So it would be Jonathan. Jonathan, who else?
I would suggest maybe Tanya, because one of these has to do with her, if that's okay.
Okay.
So Johnny, you're gonna let us know when to come back into the meeting?
Yes, yeah, I can let you know, Claire.
Okay. Renee's not coming back, so just text me.
Okay.
And also our secretary, Ann, will be a part of the meeting as well. Okay, sorry, everybody. Jim?
What do you need from me?
Just say your name, your town again, and if you agree to go into executive session with those parties mentioned.
Jim Bell, Bernardston, yes.
Thank you. Julie?
Julie Burke, Northfield, yes.
Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton Bernardston, yes.
Kristen Gonzalez, Northfield, yes. Karen?
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
David and Mike have left. Alan?
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Druso, Leiden, yes.
So, and Raina and Nathan, while you guys weren't sworn in, you can't vote, but you can participate. So Raina?
Yeah, Raina Dastu for Northfield, yes.
Thank you. Nathan?
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna ask at this time, and Nathan, let's see, Tyler, BNC TV. So John, will you text Tyler and let him know when we're coming back into open session?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Who's
had
speaking?
Oh, sorry, this is Ann.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Ann.
You had Raina and Nathan vote after you just said they couldn't vote. So I think they should be on the invite list, but not on the voting list, if that makes
No,
any.
yes. Yep.
They're
Go ahead, Alan.
yeah, I'm just trying to keep us out of trouble. Since they're not on the school committee, and I mean, and I don't want you guys to get mad at me in any way. I'm just trying to do this pristine. If you're not appointed, if you're not sworn in by the moderator, you're not on the school committee. So you're inviting a resident who's not a school committee member until they're sworn in into executive session. I think that's very dangerous in that someone could question that. My heart goes out to them because I would love them to be there, but when you're not sworn in, you're simply not a school committee member. And I don't think it's appropriate to have them in executive session. So as long as I've made myself clear, that's all I can do is
So,
to give advice.
I'm going to be transparent. This is uncharted waters for me, and I'm not sure. So, John, I'm not sure if you can text Russell.
I can text him. I'm not sure how quickly he'll get
Oh my
back to me.
gosh, it's 10 o'clock at night.
No.
I don't know if I should text him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not, never mind.
I'm thinking if they can't take a vote, there's not really a purpose for them to be in the executive session too.
So I apologize then, Nathan and
Yeah.
Raina. Go ahead. I see Michelle, your hand up.
I agree with Alan. They haven't been sworn in and they're looking at bargaining information as a resident.
Well, they were already emailed the documents too, so.
Oh,
Not good. But you didn't know. I mean, in defense of the district, you didn't know, and I think until just recently that they weren't sworn in.
Right.
So it is what it is.
So
But
with all-
let's not make that worse.
with all due respect, Nathan and Raina, until we're able to gain legal clarity from our legal counsel, would both of you be okay with not joining us at this time, given that you haven't been sworn in?
Yep, that would be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Okay, thank you. And I'll make sure that tomorrow we get clarity from Russell moving forward, so that
And
that we
don't be
have
mad
that.
at me, please.
So if I can just have you guys remove yourselves from the meeting, please, and then we can let you know when to rejoin. So Rena has left, and then I'm just going to remove Nathan.
So
Goodness, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, all set, he said.
Okay. Can someone let Nathan know? I mean, they can't vote, but I want to make sure that they know that we're back in open session. I don't know if anybody has his contact information. Does Alan or?
I don't. Alan, do you have?
If he's on his computer and waiting, I wonder if we just send him a quick email message to let him know.
I don't even know what his email was. I can
I
let
got
Raina
it
know
on the
because
calendar.
I have her phone number.
Say I have Nate's. I don't know what Raina's.
I believe that we used Nathan's personal.
Yeah, I have Nathan's personal one. That's what I'm saying, but I'm not sure which one belongs to Raina.
I just messaged her.
Okay.
Okay, Alan just joined us on the computer, so that's good. That's a good sign. And Raina's coming.
Okay, yep.
So it's only Nathan?
So it's only Nathan.
Yep, I just emailed him.
Okay. Thank you for everyone's patience this evening as we deal with this technology. I am looking forward to getting back to meeting in person when that day comes. It will be a little bit more simple in this process.
I think we were doing well on the length of meetings when we were meeting more than once a month. I'll
Yes,
just
I have to
remind
agree with
people
you.
that was a good way to operate, and I wouldn't be against going back.
I'm going to add that to our agenda for the next meeting, Karen, so that we can revisit that.
Because I'm losing it right now.
You and me both.
I was gonna say, Kristen, I'll add to that too, just while we're waiting for people to come back.
Yeah.
That has kind of been a request of our accounts payable clerk for quite some time too, because it would help our vendor relations and promptness of paying on certain
Amen.
things that are credit based that we've had issues with during COVID and doing special warrants.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll put that on next month's agenda so that we can address that moving forward, and have 2 meetings a month if the committee so chooses.
And
So
Kristen, did you get my email with the warrants that I sent?
Hold on.
The cover sheets.
Sorry, my internet connection is poor where I'm sitting and I can't usually run multiple devices. If I don't get it, Tanya, I'll send you an email.
Okay, that's okay. I just forwarded you both of them so you could scan them and send them over.
Okay.
If you can.
All right. So we are back in open session for meeting and executive session. We are going to, if there is a motion on the floor, vote in open session on the MOU for the modified educator evaluation process, as well as the PVRA, PVASP cafeteria MOAs.
I so move.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any discussion? None. Okay, so I'll just go down the line of everybody that's still here. If you could please just state your name and your vote. Okay, and this is for both.
Can I just ask a question? So
Hold on
you
a
said
second.
it was,
Go ahead, Claire.
you said it was for the evaluation process, but the MOU is the evaluations, the PDPs, and the additional time. I want to make sure that we're clear
Yes.
on what we're voting on.
Yes, it's the document. It's an entirety. I just was shortening it for sake of time.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll do one and then the other. Okay. Alan, did you have a question?
I think you clarified it. I thought when you first said it that you were lumping the MOU for the teachers and the cafeteria as one vote. So
No.
that's not the case. Good.
No, I was just saying that that's what we were doing right now. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. Okay. So we have the motion. I'm going to go through our attendance sheet. So this is for the teachers MOA. Jim?
Jim, yes.
Julie?
Julie, yes.
Jeannie?
Jeannie, yes.
Karen?
Karen, yes.
Alan?
Alan Genovese Warwick, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Drew-Leiden, yes.
And Kristen Gonzalez Northfield, yes. So that motion passes. I didn't forget anybody, correct? Everybody voted? Okay. And then we're going to vote on the cafeteria MOA. I'll go down the line again. Jim?
Jim, yes.
Julie?
Julie Berg Northfield, yes.
Do you need to have two separate motions or not?
Karen made a motion so that we could vote on both of them.
Okay, but you're voting separately. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So Julie?
Julie Berg Northfield, yes.
Jeannie?
Jeannie, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Alan?
Alan Genovese Warwick, yes. Wait a minute. We're voting on the cafeteria. Alan Genovese Warwick abstained.
Yep.
Abstained.
Michelle?
Michelle Drew-Leiden, yes.
And Kristen Gonzalez Northfield, I abstain as well. But that motion passes, so. Okay?
Yep.
All right, let's see if we can speed through these last few items. Any old business?
Can I just say thank you for that? It's been a very long process, and we're all really happy with the outcome. We're just like happy it's over. We're happy that it was something that was easily done in a long period of time, but we're done and it's over, and we're very happy with the process and the
Thank
outcome.
you, Claire, for that feedback. Old business? None. Personnel staff changes, we were all emailed a document to review. Any questions regarding that?
No.
Okay, no miscellaneous updates. Good and welfare. Well, we have almost a full committee, so that's wonderful. Thank you for everyone's patience and being here and working through the technology issues that we've had. Our next regular meeting will be Thursday, December 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. via the Google Meet platform.
Yep. It's me. I have a question about that.
Sure.
That's the first night of Hanukkah. Does that present a problem for any of our members, new or old?
I don't see any
No.
hands, Karen, and I will reach out to David and Mike and whoever the potential third member is just to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Jeannie?
I have a couple of things. When will the new members have their Pioneer District emails, addresses?
They have them already. They just haven't connected to be logged on yet. So, because Joanne's on vacation.
Oh, okay, because I couldn't find any of them when I went back through the old emails.
Yeah, they're set up, but they're not like active.
All right, and my other thing is happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jeannie.
Jeannie.
Alan, I saw your hand up.
I make a motion
I was
that
just
we
gonna say-
adjourn.
I'm good.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jim. Is there a second for that motion?
I second, Karen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed?
Everybody stay well.
Yes.
Stay healthy,
Thank you.
and thank
Be
you for
safe.
everyone's patience this evening.
Wear a mask.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.